Chapter 16. Wang Jida replied, "Of course it's still there, but it was hidden by Daoyuan. In order to keep it a secret, only he knows where it is. Last night, Daoyuan was seriously injured and unconscious, so I don't know where it is. Do you want me to wake Daoyuan up and ask?" Yang Yong waved his hand and said, "No need, I'll find out after I investigate." With Yang Yong's divine sense cultivation, even if someone were to dig 3 feet into the ground, they wouldn't be able to hide from him. Soon, he found the hiding place of the Qing River carps. The group came to Wang Daoyuan's cave residence. Wang Jida saw that Wang Daoyuan was still sleeping, so he woke him up and pretended to scold him. "Daoyuan, quickly get up and greet Elder Zhou and Elder Yang." Wang Daoyuan got up with difficulty and saluted everyone. "Greetings, Elder Zhou, Ancestor Yang, and all the seniors." Yang Yong asked curiously, "You're the little guy who caught the Qing River carps? Why don't you call me Elder Yang, but Ancestor Yang?" Wang Daoyuan replied respectfully, "Ancestor Yang, my mother's surname is Yang. Although she's immortal, she's also a descendant of Ancestor Yang, so I call you Ancestor." "I didn't expect you to be my descendant." Yang Yong stroked his beard and laughed, then took out a jade pendant. "You called me Ancestor, so I can't not give you something. This is a defensive magic tool that can withstand an all-out attack from an early-stage foundation establishment cultivator and can be used repeatedly. It's the first time I meet a descendant, so consider it a greeting gift." This was a low-grade Tier 2 defensive magic tool. Wang Daoyuan repeatedly thanked him and accepted the jade pendant. Then Wang Daoyuan, with the help of Wang Jida, dug out the Qing River carps and handed them to the 2 elders. Elder Zhou observed for a while and said, "It's slender and long like a carp, with long whiskers and a long tail, fins like streamers and layers of scales." "That's right, it's the Qing River carps." "Elder Yang, you've seen the Qing River carps before, what do you think?" Yang Yong also nodded. "That's right, it's indeed the Qing River carps, 1 male and 1 female. Since there are no mistakes, and the sect master has given Elder Zhou full authority to deal with it, I won't interfere. Elder Yang is too polite. If it weren't for Elder Yang's message, this task wouldn't have fallen into my lap." Elder Zhou's face was filled with joy. The Wang family has done a meritorious service by offering the clear river carps. This elder will make the decision to give the Wang family a shop belonging to the Netherworld sect on the east side of the Jade Spring Alchemy Seal Pavilion as a reward. Wang Jian and Wang Jida were overjoyed and thanked him repeatedly. Elder Zhou waved his hand and said, "I haven't finished speaking, don't be in such a hurry to thank me." Since the Qing River carp could only survive in the upper reaches of the Qingli River, it was useless to bring it back to the Netherworld sect. The Wang family's ancestors had experience in rearing Qing River carp, and it was located at the source of Qingli River, so it was suitable for Qing River carp to live. I've decided that the Wang family will raise the Qing River carps on behalf of the Netherworld sect. The Qing River carps will be under the direct management of the Netherworld sect's Qingli market. When these 2 Qing River carps multiply in the future, the Netherworld sect will take 80% of them. I wonder if the Wang family is willing? Wang Jian was overjoyed. Although he helped the Netherworld sect raise the Qing River carps and had 80% of them taken away, the profit was very small, but this time he had a position in the Netherworld sect. It could be said that he had entered the Netherworld sect's system. In the future, the Wang family would be part of the Netherworld sect. In the future, once the Wang family had a foundation establishment clansman who joined the Netherworld sect, they could be counted as a direct descendant of the Netherworld sect. Even in this kind of situation, the Liang family could no longer suppress the Wang family openly. Moreover, once an important figure of the Wang family was plotted against, they could also ask the Netherworld sect for help. Although it might not be practical, for those who wanted to deal with the Wang family, it was also a kind of deterrence. Wang Jian thanked Elder Zhou again and again, showing his loyalty to the Netherworld sect. After that, the Qing River carps were escorted back to the Jade Spring Peak by Elder Zhou and Wang Jian, where they were raised in the Jade Dragon Spring. This was also to tell the surrounding forces that the Qing River carps belonged to the Netherworld sect. Whoever dared to snatch them would be snatching food from the Netherworld sect's mouth. After that, Someone went to the Wang family store to inquire about the result of the Qin River carp's disposal. The Wang family people also told the whole story, dispelling some people's thoughts. The people of the Netherworld sect followed Yang Yong back to the Netherworld sect's stronghold in the clear glass market. Liang Jiaxing also snorted coldly, flicked his sleeves, and left. Although the Netherworld sect was not a good person, if they could get the Netherworld sect's protection and change the Wang family's situation of being oppressed and excluded, why not? Wang Daoyuan continued to lie on the bed to heal his injuries, carefully observing the jade pendant that ancestor Yang gave him. This jade pendant was carved from white jade, with flowers and plants carved on the front and a Yang character on the back. There was nothing special about the pattern. The extraordinary thing was that it contained dense spiritual energy. The amount of spiritual energy was comparable to a second-level low-grade spiritual talisman. No wonder it could block the full-force attack of an early-stage Foundation establishment cultivator. Moreover, it could be used repeatedly, much more valuable than a second-level low-grade defensive spiritual talisman. He was now seriously injured, and his qi and blood were deficient, but he was reluctant to waste his essence blood to make this jade pendant recognize him as its master. He casually put away the jade pendant, and his divine sense entered the space of the spiritual pearl to see if there was anything good on the assassin he killed before. After all, assassins lived a life of licking blood on the edge of the blade. They did not have a fixed residence, and they carried everything with them. An assassin at the 9th level of Qi Disciple, or even the peak, must have a lot of wealth. Except for the black dagger that threatened Wang Daoyuan, this assassin only had a storage bag and a spiritual beast bag. Because the space of the spiritual pearl was a top-level space treasure, it was equivalent to a small world. Low and high-level space treasures in the space of the spiritual pearl were essentially the same as in the outside big world. Therefore, Wang Daoyuan could put the storage bag in the space of the spiritual pearl. If an interspatial ring was put in the storage bag, it would directly explode. If a storage bag was put in an interspatial ring, it would also explode because the space suppression of the interspatial ring was not strong enough. For low or high-level space treasures, if a storage bag or an interspatial ring was put in the other, both space treasures would be destroyed. The strategy of putting one storage bag or interspatial ring on top of another would not work. Only the space of the spiritual pearl was an exception. Opening the storage bag, the harvest made Wang Daoyuan speechless. There were more than 800 low-grade spirit stones, and 1 mid-grade spirit stone, which was equivalent to more than 900 low-grade spirit stones. In addition, there were a few first-level upper-grade spirit talismans, which Wang Daoyuan could refine himself, so he did not care. There were more than a dozen elixirs for healing, detoxification, and restoring spirit energy, but there was not a single elixir for improving cultivation. It seemed that this assassin's cultivation was at the peak of Qi Disciple, so it was meaningless to eat elixirs for improving cultivation. In addition, there was a jade slip, a knight suit, a black iron token, and not a single magic weapon. It seems that this assassin was saving spirit stones to build his foundation. He sold everything that could be sold. Wang Daoyuan murmured. This jade slip recorded a spell, invisibility spell. Of course, it was not a profound spell. It could only deceive cultivators below the foundation establishment stage, and it could only deceive cultivators who had not practiced the Heavenly Eye spell. It was estimated that it was not worth much, so it was not sold. There was nothing extraordinary about the token. On one side, there were strange patterns like words, but Wang Daoyuan could not recognize them. On the other side, there were the words, blood shadow. It was estimated that it was the token of a certain force. Wang Daoyuan had never heard of any force with the words, blood shadow, in its name. Although there were no useful treasures, secret methods, or the like, these spirit stones were very considerable. It was enough for Wang Daoyuan to cultivate to the late stage of Qi Disciple. He put away the storage bag and took out the spirit beast bag. This spirit beast bag was much more advanced than the one Wang Jida gave him. Maybe there was a big guy in it. It just so happened that Wang Daoyuan had accumulated spirit grains. It would be good if he could raise a spirit beast with superior combat power to protect himself. Wang Daoyuan opened the spirit beast pouch full of expectations. There wasn't any tall and mighty spirit beast that Wang Daoyuan had imagined. There were only 20 or so rank 1 low-grade spirit bees, a fist-sized beehive, and a dead queen bee. As soon as these spirit bees came out of the spirit beast bag, they immediately lifted the beehive, hung it on the roof of the thatched hut, and then flew to the spirit grains that were blooming. Please collect and recommend. Chapter 17. For any force, raising spirit bees was like killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Spirit bees didn't need to consume any resources. Instead, they could produce extremely valuable spirit honey. Spirit bees could pollinate spirit herbs and spirit medicines, increasing their production. Spirit bees were poisonous and were extremely powerful helpers in fights of magical powers. Since discovering the space of the spirit pearl, Wang Daoyuan had the idea of raising spirit bees. The main purpose was to obtain spirit honey. Unfortunately, spirit bees were too rare. There were only 2 ways to obtain them. One was to obtain them from the force that had spirit bees, but no force had ever sold them. It would set up competitors and they could only snatch them. The second was to find wild bees. Wild bees were usually in the depths of the mountains and were not easy to find. Moreover, the fighting power of the bee colony was very strong. The Wang family could not do these 2 ways, let alone Wang Daoyuan alone. These spirit bees could be said to be a good thing, but unfortunately, the queen bee was dead. Without a queen bee, the bee colony could not reproduce and could only gradually die out. If there were still bee eggs in the hive, it was possible to breed a new queen bee. Unfortunately, the hive had the effect of blocking the detection of divine sense. He could not determine whether there were bee eggs in the hive, nor could he open the hive to take a look. If there were bee eggs, it would be over. He could only let the bee colony fend for itself. However, he had never seen this kind of spirit bee before. In his family's book collection, he also introduced several common spirit bees, but they were different from this spirit bee. These spirit bees had more slender bodies and wings, and their flying speed was faster. Since he did not know what kind of spirit bee it was, he would temporarily call it long-tailed bee. If he could breed a new queen bee, with the space's 10 times faster time flow, Wang Daoyuan would really be rich. After counting the spoils of war, his divine sense withdrew from the space. Inspired by the previous spirit rice fishing, Wang Daoyuan thought of a way to solve the problem of spirit rice backlog, breeding spirit beasts. However, he could not raise cattle, sheep, rabbits and other animals that liked to eat spirit herbs. Otherwise, if he put them into the space of the spirit pearl, they would ruin the spirit herbs in the spirit fields. The most reliable way was to raise spirit fish. After all, spirit fish could only stay in the water and could not go to the spirit fields, let alone ruin the spirit herbs. As for the source of the spirit fish seedlings, with Qingxi and Qingli River at the back, how could there be a lack of seedlings? After recuperating for more than a month, Wang Daoyuan finally recovered. He took out his fishing rod and walked towards the clear stream behind the cave. Walking to the back of the cave, Wang Daoyuan was surprised. The shore of the 3-forked estuary was filled with cultivators fishing. Among them were several disciples of the main family. When they saw Wang Daoyuan carrying a fishing rod, they greeted him. Wang Daoyuan walked to the side of a young man who was fishing. After throwing the hook, he said to the young man, "Third brother, what's going on? Why are there so many people fishing today?" The young man's name was Wang Daocheng. He was ranked 3rd in the Dao generation and was at the 6th level of Qi disciple. He was steady in his work, neither arrogant nor rash, and his conduct was impeccable. His prestige among his peers was very high, and he was the successor to the clan head after Wang Shui. In addition, he had the best aptitude among his peers, so he was the foundation establishment seed that the clan focused on nurturing. Foundation establishment seeds were usually arranged to stay on the Jade Spring Peak after they reached adulthood to do some things that did not require much effort and put their energy into cultivation. This time, the Wang family obtained another shop, and they were seriously short of manpower. They sent out all the adult disciples, and even Wang Daocheng, a seed player, was not spared. Wang Daocheng rolled his eyes at Wang Daoyuan and said, "What's going on? don't you know? Wang Daoyuan chuckled. It was purely a coincidence. These people came for the Xinjiang carps? There are only 2 in a few hundred years. How can it be so coincidental that I can still catch them? Wang Daochang said, wealth moves people's hearts. You can catch 2, but think about the others. What if you can catch more? You can't catch them now, but you can't say for sure in the future. Wang Daoyuan did not understand and asked, what do you mean? What do you mean by catching more in the future? Isn't it because of the 2 Xinjiang carps you caught? After Taigong's inspection, the female Xinjiang carps laid eggs 4 or 5 days before you caught them. You can catch them in a few years. Wang Daochang replied. Wang Daoyuan was shocked. On the morning he caught the Xinjiang carps, he put them into the space of the spiritual pearl and took them out the next morning. According to the time flow in the spiritual pearl, the Xinjiang carps stayed in the space for 7 or 8 days. Didn't that mean that the Xinjiang carps laid eggs in the space of the spiritual pearl? He suppressed the excitement in his heart and pretended to be regretful. That's a pity. If I had caught them 4 or 5 days earlier, wouldn't I have caught a nest of fry? Wang Daochang saw that he had suffered a great loss and advised, nothing is perfect. You are already very lucky to be able to catch the Xinjiang carps. Don't ask for more. Our Wang family has also earned a lot this time. We have another shop, and the clan has decided to open a restaurant. That's right, there's also your reward. The clan head told me to bring it along. Hearing this, Wang Daoyuan was interested. What reward? 2,000 clan contribution points. Wang Daochang smiled mysteriously. And the clan head and the elders' special care for you. Wang Daoyuan was pleasantly surprised. There's special care? Third brother, don't keep me in suspense. What is it? Wang Daochang cleared his throat. In view of Daoyuan's great contribution this time, he has also indirectly offended many people. In order to protect Daoyuan, before his cultivation breaks through to the late stage of Qi disciple, he is not allowed to go out. These are the clan head's original words. Of course, you still have other options. Wang Daoyuan was originally completely disheartened. He didn't expect there to be other options. He hurriedly asked, what options? Return to Jade Spring Peak. Wang Daochang replied. Wang Daoyuan's face darkened. He might as well be confined. In any case, it would be easier to escape. He could also secretly sell the spirit grains to buy some pills and return to Jade Spring Peak. How could he escape under the clan head's nose? Pretend I didn't ask. With a dark face, he turned around and returned to the cave. Wang Daochang laughed heartily when he saw his 7th brother, who had been jumping up and down since childhood, suffer a setback. After returning to the cave, Wang Daoyuan's divine sense immediately entered the space of the spiritual pearl and carefully searched the fish pond. At this time, more than a month had passed since he caught the Qing River carp. In the space, more than a year had passed. Even if the incubation cycle of the spirit fish eggs was long, it should have hatched some fry. After searching for a while, he found 10 fry that were about the size of an embroidery needle. They were strenuously gnawing on a few spirit grains. The Qing River carp, which cost 100,000 spirit stones each, was starved to such a pitiful state. If people knew that Wang Daoyuan had 10 Qing River carps, they would definitely bury him alive. If they knew that he almost starved the Qing River carps to death, they would definitely dig him out and beat him up again. He also didn't know what the Qing River carps liked to eat. Since they were gnawing on the spirit grains, he would feed them the spirit grains. Wang Daoyuan crushed the spirit grains into powder and scattered them into the puddle. The fry swam from the bottom of the water to the surface. After eating a mouthful of the spirit grain powder, they quickly returned to the bottom of the water with a flick of their tails. The 10 fry had a big appetite. After eating 1 or 2 grams of the spirit grain powder, they stopped eating. He then dug a big pit about 10 feet square in the spirit grain field. He threw out a few rain-dissipating talismans and filled the pit with water. Then, he transferred the fry that had eaten their fill. On one hand, he was worried that the pseudo-spirit fish in the fish pond would compete with the fry for food. On the other hand, he was afraid that these fish would eat the fry. The dozen or so fish were just ordinary fish with a little bit of spirit energy. They couldn't even be considered spirit fish. He couldn't affect the healthy growth of the Qing River carp fry for them. Add a chapter this weekend. Please bookmark and recommend. Chapter 18. Wang Daoyuan caught the Qing River carp. Although it caused him to be seriously injured, he also gained a big advantage. Not only did he get a shop for his family, but his family's status in the Netherworld sect also increased. He also gained nearly 1,000 spirit stones and 10 Qing River carp seedlings. Although he had a lot of spirit stones, he still had to be diligent and thrifty. He couldn't directly use spirit stones to improve his cultivation, so it was more cost-effective to buy soul-gathering pills. In addition to soul-gathering pills, he also needed to buy some talisman paper and spirit ink. Wang Daoyuan was now able to make high-grade level 1 spirit talismans. He needed a lot of practice to officially become a high-grade level 1 spirit talisman master. Although the Pill Seal Pavilion provided some spirit ink, there was a quota of spirit ink. The little spirit ink he saved was not enough at all. Wang Daoyuan's main goal in staying in the clear glass market was to collect some spirit herb seeds. Unfortunately, the clear glass market was a large market. The shops in the market basically belonged to various forces, so he couldn't buy any spirit herb seeds. After all, no force would be willing to sell valuable spirit herb seeds. He was now in confinement. If he wanted to go out, he had to rely on the invisibility technique. After a few days of hard work, Wang Daoyuan finally mastered the invisibility technique. To be safe, he still tried it on his third brother from afar. Wang Daochang was still fishing by the water. Using the invisibility technique, he walked over and took 2 fish. He put them in the space and then hid in the distance to see the third brother's reaction. Until the third brother caught another fish and was about to put it in the basket, he realized that there were fewer fish. Seeing that the effect was good, Wang Daoyuan changed into a black robe and a bamboo hat with a long black veil. He hung a closed door sign outside the cave, used the invisibility technique, and slipped out of the shop. He walked to a remote alley and revealed himself. Then he returned to his own shop and went to the Pill Seal Pavilion as a customer. Wang Daoyuan swaggered into the Pill Seal Pavilion. Wang Daochang immediately greeted him warmly. "Dao, are you buying pills, spirit talismans, or selling things? Our shop has Tier 1 and Tier 2 pills, talismans, and everything else you need. We're also buying materials for pills and talismans in bulk." Wang Daoyuan directly took out the discount iron plate he had obtained last time and said, "Take 50 soul-gathering pills, 500 pieces of first-tier upper-grade talisman paper, and 20 kilograms of spiritual ink." When Wang Daocheng saw the iron plate, he knew that it was a regular customer. His smile became even brighter. "So it's a regular customer. These things cost 550 spirit stones in total. After a 10% discount, it's 495 spirit stones. I'll make the decision and give Senior 490 spirit stones." Wang Daoyuan didn't say much. He paid the money and left. Thinking back to the last time he was ambushed by an assassin, he was seriously injured and couldn't even use his spirit energy. Even if he had the jade pendant to protect himself, he might not be able to activate it in time. It was better to buy a spirit armor to protect himself. Even if he didn't have time to react, the spirit armor itself could block some attacks. In a head-on confrontation, there were plenty of cultivators of the same level who could defeat him. Although he could use spirit talismans to smash people, the speed of using spirit talismans wasn't fast enough. If the enemy was on guard, it would be difficult to succeed in one strike. Every time he defeated his opponent, he would have to throw dozens of spirit talismans. That was throwing spirit stones. After leaving the Pill Talisman Pavilion, he strolled around the old square for a while and saw a few shops that sold magic tools. Finally, he came to the Divine Weapon Pavilion. Walking into the Divine Weapon Pavilion, the one who came to receive him was still Zhao Liang. Looking at his honest face, Wang Daoyuan didn't think that he was an honest person. The last time he bought the Profound Yang sword, he was tricked by this kid. Although he didn't suffer a loss, the feeling of being tricked was still unpleasant. After Wang Daoyuan explained his requirements, Zhao Liang's face was full of smiles. His eyes emitted a strange light as he looked at Wang Daoyuan as if he was looking at a fat sheep. Ignoring Zhao Liang's gaze, Wang Daoyuan began to choose a magic tool. Every time he picked up a magic tool and carefully observed it, Zhao Liang would introduce the functions and advantages of the magic tool. Wang Daoyuan took a fancy to a soft armor and a pair of spirit boots. They were both high-grade Tier 1 magic tools. The soft armor was called silk armor and was made of spirit silk. It could weaken an attack at the peak of Qi refinement by 3 levels. The lower the enemy's strength, the stronger the weakening effect. The spirit boots were called wind-treading boots. Among the materials used to refine them, there were 2 feathers of the Gale Eagle, which could increase one's speed by 20%. Wang Daoyuan only knew one water escape technique, which was useless on shore. With the spirit boots, the probability of escaping if he couldn't win was greatly increased. Zhao Liang saw that Wang Daoyuan didn't have any intention of continuing to choose after choosing 2 magic tools, so he recommended a high-grade Tier 1 sword. Wang Daoyuan glanced at the sword and saw that the refining method was the same as the profound Yang sword. He knew that Zhao Liang had refined it himself and was promoting it here. It seemed that he could already refine high-grade Tier 1 magic tools. The price of a defensive magic tool was much higher than other magic tools. The soft armor alone cost 120 spirit stones, and the wind-treading boots cost 80 spirit stones. After paying the spirit stones, he rejected Zhao Liang's promotion and walked out of the divine weapon pavilion. He had already bought what he wanted to buy. Next, he had to satisfy his appetite. He had transmigrated to this world for more than 10 years, but he had never eaten at a restaurant. Today, he finally had the chance, so he couldn't let it go. Following the principle of keeping the goodies within the family, he naturally ate and drank at his family's restaurant. After the Wang family took over the shop, they opened a restaurant called the Drunken Immortal Restaurant. After more than a month of preparation, they opened 2 days ago. The specialty of the Drunken Immortal Restaurant was spirit wine. With the dedicated research of the drunkard Wang Daoyan, the Wang family's spirit wine was still very good. However, the dishes were more sloppy and ordinary. The Wang family didn't have a legacy of spirit chefs. The chefs of the Drunken Immortal Restaurant were hired from outside, and their skills were only so-so. Previously, the family was in a difficult situation. Most of the spirit fields were used to grow spirit herbs for refining pills, as well as materials for talisman paper such as yellow cloud grass. A small portion was used to grow spirit grains to nurture the young family members. Because of the geographical location, the Wang family used boats to transport goods and didn't raise any spirit beasts. Now, the ingredients of the Drunken Immortal Restaurant were all supported by fish and self-produced spirit grains. Luckily, there were many people fishing now. The Drunken Immortal Restaurant could buy from fishermen and obtain enough fish. Land beasts were more scarce. After all, Clear Glass City was located in the central area of Clear Glass County. The surrounding beasts were more or less cleaned up a few hundred years ago. The nearest gathering place of beasts was at the upper reaches of the Clear Stream 2 to 3,000 miles away. Although the family had already expanded the planting area of spirit grains and raised some spirit beasts with fast reproduction speed, distant water couldn't quench the immediate thirst. Wang Daoyuan walked into the Drunken Immortal Restaurant, wearing a black robe and a veil and bamboo hat. The business of the Drunken Immortal Restaurant wasn't too good. In the cultivation world, there was no such thing as opening discounts. It was all about small streams flowing long. Shops that had good business either had standards that exceeded their peers, such as the Divine Weapon Pavilion, or were old shops that had accumulated a large amount of connections and reputation, such as the Wang family's Jade Spring Provision Store. It was normal that business wasn't good since it had just opened and didn't have any reputation. What's more, the Drunken Immortal Restaurant didn't have enough ingredients now. If business was too good, they wouldn't be able to cope. The shopkeepers and waiters in the restaurant were all from the same family. Moreover, most of them were older than him. His peers were also older than him. Lifting the veil on his bamboo hat, everyone recognized him and had the qualifications to beat him up and bring him back to the backyard for confinement. Therefore, it was safer to eat in a single room. Entering the single room, he picked up the menu and ordered. Most of the ingredients on the menu were either spirit grains or fish. There was very little spirit beast meat. He wasn't interested in spirit grains. He ate them all day long, so there wasn't anything new. He ordered 5 jars of scarlet blood wine and 7 to 8 dishes. Various kinds of fish soup, braised, fried. Chapter 19. After the dishes were served, he closed the door of the room, threw off his bamboo hat, and began to sweep the fallen leaves in the autumn wind. In the blink of an eye, 3 dishes had already disappeared. He picked up a jar of red blood wine and directly blew on it without using a bowl. In less than 100 breaths, the jar was finished. When he was finishing the 4th dish, the door was kicked open. A burly man barged in and slapped the back of Wang Daoyuan's head. He scolded, "I thought I had a confidant in the restaurant, so I ordered 5 jars of wine at once. I didn't expect it to be you. You still owe me a few jars of wine, so you secretly came here to drink. Moreover, you're drinking in my territory without calling me. You're simply disrespectful." After he finished speaking, he sat down and picked up a jar of wine with one hand and chopsticks with the other to pick up the food. Wang Daoyuan said, "12th uncle, why are you here?" The person who came was Wang Shui. His chopsticks didn't stop eating as he said, "Speaking of which, I still benefited from you. You did such a big thing and opened a new shop in the family, the Drunken Immortal restaurant. I'm the family's only brewer and was sent to the Drunken Immortal restaurant to brew wine. Although it's a bit troublesome, I don't want to go back since there's free wine to drink. Then I'll have to congratulate 12th uncle. Let me give you a toast. How about we have a few more jars?" The 2 clinked jars and Wang Shui waved his hand. "No need. We don't have enough ingredients for the wine and dishes right now. I usually don't dare to drink too much. Today I'm so happy because of your wine. If you drink too much, the Drunken Immortal restaurant won't be able to provide wine and the restaurant's reputation will be ruined. You'll have to pay with spirit stones. You'll be punished for eating and drinking for free." Wang Daoyuan repeatedly said that he didn't dare. How could he ruin his restaurant's reputation? The 2 drunkards drank 5 jars of red blood wine. Of the 7 or 8 dishes, only the fish bones were left. Wang Daoyuan drank 3 jars and was a bit dazed. He directly shouted, "Waiter, the bill." Just as he finished speaking, a person pushed open the door and came in. However, it wasn't the waiter, but a white-haired old man with an air of immortality, Wang Jida. Wang Jida asked with a fake smile, "Dear customers, are you satisfied with the food and wine of this store?" Wang Shui's back was facing Wang Jida. He was so drunk that he couldn't tell who it was. Hugging the wine jar, he drank the last mouthful of wine and heartlessly replied, "It's not bad, especially this wine. It's really not bad. It's almost the same as the wine I brewed." Burp. Wang Daoyuan was lying on the table. The voice sounded familiar. He looked up and saw a face with a fake smile. He was so frightened that he fell from his chair to the ground. The wine jar in his arms also broke. Wang Jida sneered, "What's wrong, guest? Have you eaten your fill?" Although he was smiling in Wang Daoyuan's eyes, it was incomparably ferocious. He subconsciously moved back and swallowed a mouthful of saliva. He didn't dare to speak and only nodded. "Guest, the 5 jars of scarlet blood wine are 100 spirit stones. Including these dishes, it's a total of 110 spirit stones. If you break a jar, you'll be fined 10 spirit stones. Do you have any objections?" Wang Daoyuan didn't dare to have any objections. He forcefully shook his head and paid the spirit stones. Wang Jida stared at Wang Daoyuan with a smile that wasn't a smile and said, "Now that we've finished discussing business, it's time to talk about feelings. What did the clan leader say? Did you ask for my permission to go out? Now, tell me, how should I punish you?" When Wang Shui heard that someone was going to punish Wang Daoyuan, he slammed the table and shouted, "Let's see who dares to bully my nephew. Burp, Daoyuan, don't be afraid. With me here, let's see who dares to touch you." Wang Jida lifted Wang Shui up from the chair with one hand and turned his head around with the other. I was wondering who it was. Speaking so boldly, do you want to spar with me?" Wang Shui, a burly man, was lifted up by Wang Jida with one hand. There was an indescribable feeling of joy. When Wang Shui saw that it was Wang Jida, he immediately became terrified. He flatteringly helped Wang Jida to a chair and said, "Ninth uncle, please sit. How would I dare to fight with you? It's just that I drank too much and didn't recognize you." He turned to Wang Daoyuan and sternly criticized, "You little brat, you're too outrageous. The clan leader put you in confinement for your own good. How could you secretly go out without ninth uncle's knowledge?" Wang Jida glanced at him and then reprimanded Wang Daoyuan. "The drunken Immortal restaurant has just opened and is lacking in all kinds of goods. You came here to eat and drink. Are you trying to ruin our family's reputation?" Wang Shui continued from the side, "That's right. Daoyuan is seriously too outrageous. He must be severely punished. Now that we don't have enough ingredients, in my opinion, we should punish him by providing some spiritual fish. In any case, Daoyuan's fishing skills are quite high. There are so many people fishing on the banks of the market square right now, but no one has caught more than him." Wang Daoyuan cursed in his heart, "This 12th uncle is too disloyal. Just now, he was filled with righteous indignation and wanted to stand up for me. But when he saw ninth uncle, he softened and even tricked me. However, this can also be considered as helping me. Catching some spiritual fish is not difficult for me and can even reduce the punishment." Thinking of this, Wang Daoyuan quickly said, "Thank you 12th uncle for reminding me. I am willing to accept my punishment and hand over 100 pseudo-spiritual fish to share the family's worries and difficulties." Wang Jida was a little moved, but his face was still unmoved. He said, "Hand over 500 fish, each no less than 1 jin, and I will treat it as if this matter has never happened." Wang Daoyuan naturally agreed. There was not much to do in confinement. Fishing was just a pastime. As long as he was not punished with confinement, he would be lucky. With his skills, it was not difficult for him to catch 10 fish a day. He could complete the task in less than 2 months. If it was not possible, he could use the fish in the spiritual bead space to make up the number. He was really afraid of Wang Jida. He learned to make talismans from Wang Jida. Wang Jida was his master and was very strict with him. According to the family's seniority, Wang Jida was his granduncle. He was both a parent and a teacher. Who would not be afraid of him? However, looking at the 12th uncle's performance, he was also afraid of 9th uncle. It was estimated that he had been taught a lesson when he was young. Otherwise, as the family's elders, even if the younger generation was respectful to the elder, it would not be like a mouse seeing a cat. With the 12th uncle's temperament, he was definitely more lively than him when he was young. It should be common for him to be taught a lesson. At this time, Wang Shui was massaging Wang Jida's back. He was relieved. The mastermind was fine. As an accomplice, he should also be fine, right? At this time, Wang Jida said, "Shui, why are you drinking with Daoyuan? If I remember correctly, you should be brewing wine in the backyard, right? When you saw Daoyuan run out without permission, not only did you not persuade him, but you also drank wine. I want to punish Daoyuan, and you are still supporting him. You are quite capable." Wang Shui hurriedly said, "Ninth uncle, listen to me quibble? No, listen to my explanation." Wang Jida waved his hand and said, "Don't quibble. You brat, you've always been good at finding excuses when you've been punished since you were young. Every time you've come up with an excuse, it's always a novel one that sounds especially reasonable. You fooled me several times. I can't be long-winded when dealing with you. You are not allowed to drink for a month. In addition, I will give you another task. Watch Daoyuan. If he runs out, you can forget about drinking wine before his confinement expires." Wang Shui's face was sad. He was distressed about his right to drink for free for a month. He secretly made up his mind that he must squeeze the loss from his nephew. From then on, Wang Daoyuan no longer had the chance to run away. In order to protect his right to drink, Wang Shui kept a close eye on him. A small trick like the invisibility technique was no different from a joke under Wang Shui's powerful divine sense. Chapter 20. In the blink of an eye, 4 years had passed and Wang Daoyuan was no longer able to sneak out successfully. After all, Wang Shui, who was watching him, was the ancestor of sneaking out. All the methods that he could think of were left behind by Wang Shui. His many attempts to sneak out were all instantly seen through by Wang Shui. He was locked up and could not sneak out to sell spirit grains and spirit herbs. He could only ask the 12th uncle to help him buy cultivation resources, and he had to pay a jar of wine every time. Wang Shui even called it compensation for mental damage, compensation for loss of freedom, compensation for loss of youth, and so on. In order to earn spirit stones in exchange for cultivation resources, he could only admit that he could refine superior grade 1 spirit talismans. After all, superior grade 1 spirit talismans had an average price of 5 spirit stones. Spirit talismans that exceeded the allotment set by the family were sold for 4 spirit stones each. With sufficient resources, Wang Daoyuan's cultivation reached the peak of Qi Refinement Stage 6. Qi Refinement Stage 7 was considered late-stage Qi Refinement Stage. Once he broke through to Qi Refinement Stage 7, his confinement was lifted. However, late-stage Qi Refinement Stage was the second bottleneck of the Qi Refinement Stage, and the difficulty of breaking through was far greater than Qi Refinement Stage 4. In 4 years, his cultivation had gone from Qi Refinement Stage 4 to the peak of Qi Refinement Stage 6, an increase of nearly 3 levels. This speed was too fast for most cultivators. However, Wang Daoyuan's cultivation did not solely rely on elixirs. It was also the result of his own hard work. Coupled with his solid foundation, even though his cultivation speed was too fast in the past 4 years, his cultivation could not be considered superficial. However, his foundation could not be considered solid either. The foundation of the Qi Refinement Stage determined one's future achievements. With the space of the Spirit Pearl, Wang Daoyuan's future was very bright, and the possibility of him reaching foundation establishment was not small. Naturally, he had to consider his future. In a situation where one's foundation was not solid enough, directly relying on large amounts of elixirs to forcefully break through the bottleneck would cause very serious consequences. That was if one's foundation was unstable and their cultivation was superficial. In the future, their cultivation would increase slowly, and the difficulty of breaking through would greatly increase when they encountered a bottleneck. Furthermore, it was very troublesome to resolve such a situation. There were only 2 ways. One was to consume spirit herbs that could resolve the problem of an unstable foundation. Of course, such spirit herbs were expensive and rare. The other was to slow down one's cultivation speed and not be in a hurry to break through. Slowly, to completely resolve the problem of an unstable foundation. However, the amount of time needed to accumulate was something that ordinary cultivators could not accept. Although there were all kinds of supplementary secret techniques that could solve the problem of an unstable foundation, compared to cultivating honestly and accumulating enough experience before making a breakthrough, the amount of time, energy, and resources required was much greater. For the sake of his future, it was better to accumulate enough before breaking through. Without any secret techniques or spiritual items, the best way to consolidate one's cultivation was through battle. Wang Daoyuan was confined and could not leave the Alchemy Seal Pavilion. The only opponent he could find was Wang Shui, who was watching over him. Carrying 2 jars of scarlet blood wine, he walked out of the cave. There was nothing he could do about it. If he asked Wang Shui to do something, it would be impossible to do it without wine. He had also asked Wang Shui to buy these wines. Every time he bought wine, Wang Shui would take a cut. He would get 1 for every 10 jars. However, these wine jars were not wasted. They were all used by Wang Daoyuan to store his new wine. The scarlet blood ginseng in the space could be used to make wine 3 years ago. However, there was no way to explain the source of the wine, so he could only drink it himself and not take it out. The earliest batch of scarlet blood wine had already been stored for 3 years. According to the time in the space of the Spirit Pearl, it had already been aged for 30 years. Wang Shui was dozing off in the backyard of the Alchemy Seal Pavilion. Just as Wang Daoyuan walked out of the cave with the 2 jars of wine, he woke up and smiled. "You brat, you don't wake up early without benefits. What business do you have with me this time? I'll say the ugly words first. Don't even think about running away." Wang Daoyuan said fawningly, "Look at what you're saying. Can't I be filial to 12th uncle for no reason? I'm already at the peak of Qi Disciple Stage 6. I'm just one step away from breaking through to late-stage Qi Disciple stage. If I run away now, wouldn't it be the same as wetting the bed in the morning? Alright, let's not talk about those useless things. Wang Shui interrupted Wang Daoyuan. If you have something to say, just say it. Wang Xiang smiled. He 12th uncle knows me best. I'm about to break through, but my accumulation isn't enough. If I forcefully break through to late-stage Qi Disciple stage, my foundation might be unstable. Therefore, I came to find 12th uncle to be my sparring partner and consolidate my cultivation. I knew it. You brat, you wouldn't be so kind as to give me wine for no reason. Since it's to break through as soon as possible, then as an elder, I should help you. If you break through earlier, I won't have to watch over you all day. These 4 years have been stifling for me. I'll beat you up first to vent my anger. Wang Shui said without hesitation. Wang Daoyuan took out the mystic yang sword and performed a sword salute. Wang Shui said casually, "Don't bother with those empty words. Just directly attack. You're just a rookie without any experience. I'll be fine empty-handed." Although Wang Daoyuan had killed an assassin at the peak of Qi Disciple stage, he had relied on the power of the talisman to succeed in a sneak attack. It couldn't be considered combat experience at all. It wasn't wrong to call him a rookie. The only gain was that he had cultivated his courage. When it was time to attack, he would dare to attack. He wouldn't be as afraid as a real rookie. Hearing Wang Shui's words, Wang Daoyuan didn't stand on ceremony. He activated his wind-stepping boots with all his might and stabbed forward with his sword. Wang Shui held the wine gourd in his left hand and used his right hand as a sword finger. He gently tapped on the sword's body, causing the sword to tilt to the side. Wang Daoyuan pulled back the mystic yang sword and swept it over again. Wang Shui flicked his sword finger and the mystic yang sword was raised high and passed over his head. After that, Wang Daoyuan used all the basic moves of the sword technique, such as chop, lift, point, stab, and collapse. Wang Shui easily received it with his sword finger. Other than his right arm, his body didn't move at all. Wang Daoyuan had learned quite a bit of martial arts from the old Daoist in his previous life. However, the society in his previous life didn't have the conditions to fight. The martial arts he learned in his previous life were basically built behind closed doors. He would often spar with the old Daoist. At most, he would act bravely for justice and beat up hooligans. He had never fought with an expert before, so he didn't have any actual combat experience. After fighting for more than 2 hours, Wang Daoyuan's spirit energy was exhausted. He put away the mystic yang sword and sat beside Wang Shui. They each picked up a jar of scarlet blood wine and drank it all in one gulp. They sat on the spot to recover their spirit energy. It had to be said that spirit wine was much better than spirit recovery pills in terms of recovering spirit energy. After drinking the spirit wine, there was no need to refine it. The spirit energy in the wine would quickly be absorbed and automatically enter the meridians. As long as it was transformed by the spirit root, it could be completely used for oneself. On the other hand, spirit recovery pills needed to be refined before they could be absorbed into the meridians. Then the spirit energy would be transformed into one's own. The time required was 3 times more than drinking the spirit wine. However, spirit wine wasn't without its drawbacks. Cultivators who couldn't drink wine would be drunk for a few days after drinking a jar of wine. No matter how fast one's spirit energy recovered, it was meaningless to use spirit energy to dissolve the alcohol. Even Wang Daoyuan would pass out after drinking 5 jars of scarlet blood wine at once. Wang Shui's alcohol tolerance was about the same. As soon as Wang Daoyuan's spirit energy recovered, he began to spar with Wang Shui again. However, the battle situation still didn't change. It was still one-sided. After fighting for an entire day, his spirit energy was exhausted 4 or 5 times. Wang Daoyuan was exhausted, but Wang Shui didn't sweat at all. He could even fight for a few more hours. Chapter 21. Wang Daoyuan sparred with Wang Shui every day, exhausting all of his spirit energy 2 or 3 times. After replenishing it, he would feel that his spirit energy was even stronger. As his cultivation gradually stabilized, his combat ability also became stronger. Wang Shui went from being motionless in the beginning to being forced to dodge, to standing up and sparring with Wang Daoyuan. After being abused for 3 months, he was finally able to remain undefeated while Wang Shui was empty-handed. Of course, this was under the condition that Wang Shui only used the 6th level of Qi Disciple and did not use any spells. At this time, Wang Daoyuan's foundation was already very stable. Even if he quickly broke through to the 9th level of Qi Disciple, his foundation would not be unstable. However, for the sake of his future, it was best to fight steadily. The goal of stabilizing his foundation had been achieved. It was time to break through to the 7th level of Qi Disciple. After thanking Wang Shui, Wang Daoyuan returned to his cave and began to break through in seclusion. Sitting cross-legged on the stone couch, he took out 5 jars of red blood wine that had been stored in the cellar for 30 years. He thought to himself, "My foundation is stable, my spirit energy is abundant, and with these spirit wines, my breakthrough should be stable." He drank a jar of red blood wine first. Without refining it, the spirit energy quickly entered his meridians. Wang Daoyuan operated his cultivation method and guided the spirit energy into his dantian. His dantian was already full of spirit energy. If external spirit energy wanted to enter, he could only continuously compress the spirit energy in his dantian and make it thicker. After spending an hour, he finally guided all of the spirit energy from the jar of red blood wine into his dantian. The spirit energy in his dantian had already reached its limit and could not be increased by a single bit. At this time, he finally felt that he was about to break through. He hurriedly operated his cultivation method and guided the spirit energy to flow through his meridians. The spirit energy from the outside world was attracted and gathered into Wang Daoyuan's body. Every time he operated his cultivation method, the spirit energy in his body grew stronger. Outside the cave, the spirit energy was constantly gathering into Wang Daoyuan's body. The spirit energy in the entire Dan Seal Pavilion decreased, but the spirit energy outside the pavilion was constantly replenished. A spirit energy wind actually appeared in the pavilion. Wang Shui, who was dozing off, sensed the movement and opened his eyes to check the situation. When he confirmed that the spiritual aura was rushing towards Wang Daoyuan's Immortal's cave, he smiled in relief and said, "These 3 months of work weren't in vain. Daoyuan is finally going to break through." The worst 5 spirit veins aptitude, the most basic water attribute cultivation method, can water art, and when he breaks through, he can even trigger a spirit chi wind. This kid's foundation is quite solid. Of course, this spirit chi wind was very weak and could only blow some willow catkins and dust. People who didn't have a keen divine sense wouldn't be able to detect the changes in spirit chi. Wang Shui was a cultivator with 2 spiritual roots. It was said that the shadow of his water spiritual root was extremely high. What he practiced was the Jindan stage cultivation method left behind by Wang Qingzu, the art of overturning the sea. When he broke through to the later stage of Qi refining, he triggered a vortex of spiritual energy with a diameter of 10 feet. It swept up the fallen leaves and dust. Even mortals could see it. Inside the Immortal's cave, Wang Daoyuan was wrapped in water blue spiritual aura. The spiritual aura in his body gathered more and more until his meridians and dantian were filled with spiritual aura. When he could no longer absorb a trace of spiritual aura, he seemed to hear a crack. His dantian and meridians expanded a little and the spiritual aura in his body became thicker. There was a trace of abnormal fluctuation in the spiritual pearl in his sea of consciousness. The spiritual aura circulated in his meridians and gradually integrated into his blood. The blood integrated with the spiritual aura was the blood essence. The blood essence flowed throughout his body. His internal organs, bones, muscles and so on were nourished by the blood essence and became stronger. When the blood essence no longer increased and the strengthening of various parts of the body stopped, the consolidation of the 7th level of Qi refining was completed. Wang Daoyuan guided the spiritual aura back to his dantian and stopped circulating his cultivation method. He opened his eyes and stood up, only to feel weak all over. It had been 3 days since he went into seclusion. In fact, the real breakthrough only took half a day. The rest of the time was used to consolidate the realm. He didn't eat or drink for 3 days and 3 nights. He also had to strengthen his body. He was about to faint from hunger. He wanted to catch 2 pseudo-spirit fish from the space of the spiritual pearl, but he didn't expect to enter the space of the spiritual pearl. He couldn't help but be surprised. He saw that the size of the space had doubled and the area had become 20 mu. The quality of the spiritual fields had greatly improved. They could barely be regarded as second-stage spiritual fields. The concentration of spiritual aura in the entire space had doubled. It was comparable to the spiritual aura near the first-stage high-grade spiritual vein. The flow of time in the space had also accelerated. After testing the inside and outside of the space by lighting incense, the flow of time in the space was 20 times faster than outside. He specially set aside 2 mu of spiritual fields and dug a large pond to expand the scale of spiritual fish breeding and to plant aquatic spiritual plants. He planted another 2 mu of spiritual grains. The number of pseudo-spirit fish increased, and the consumption of spiritual grains increased. In addition, he began to try to use the spiritual grains to brew low-grade spiritual wine. The less than 1 mu of spiritual grains was no longer enough. He planted 3 mu of red blood ginseng. When refining talismans, he consumed too much spiritual energy. In order not to affect the efficiency of talisman making, he relied on red blood wine to quickly restore his spiritual energy. The consumption was really not small. The other 3 mu of spiritual fields were planted with several kinds of spiritual herbs for refining spirit-gathering pills. 4 years had passed in the space, but 40 years had passed in the space. The Tenqing river carps had grown to a foot long. They had reached the cultivation level of first-stage low-grade. It would not be long before they could reproduce. The pseudo-spirit fish in the space had multiplied to more than 300, but none of them had evolved into a first-stage low-grade demonic beast to become a real spiritual fish. The Qing river carps were already strong enough to crush the pseudo-spirit fish. They did not need to be separated, so they were all put together. The Qing river carps would also prey on these pseudo-spirit fish. The long-tailed bees in the space did not disappoint Wang Daoyuan. They successfully cultivated a new queen bee, and the colony survived. The queen bee and the worker bee looked similar, but the queen bee was twice as big as the worker bee. The ordinary worker bee was a first-stage low-grade spiritual insect, but the queen bee was a first-stage mid-grade spiritual insect. There were spiritual grains, spiritual herbs, and other spiritual plants in the space, which provided a stable honey source for the colony. In the past 40 years, the colony of long-tailed bees had expanded from a few dozen to more than 500. The hive had also changed a lot. It used to be only the size of a fist, but now it was a big hive with a diameter of more than a foot. The number of spiritual bees had only increased by about 500. It was not that the queen bee was slow to reproduce, but that the honey source in the space could only support 500 spiritual bees. Since a year ago, Wang Daoyuan could harvest some honey, but the amount was small. According to the time outside the space of the spiritual pearl, he could only harvest half a kilogram of honey every month. The main honey source in the space was the spiritual grains. The other spiritual plants had a long growth cycle. Relatively speaking, their flowering time was too short. Now he had added 2 acres of spiritual fields to plant spiritual grains. By staggered planting time, he could ensure that there would always be spiritual grains blooming in the space. The honey source was more than 3 times the original. In the future, the number of spiritual bees would definitely exceed 1,500. Plus, the time flow was 20 times faster. In the future, he could harvest more than 6 kilograms of spiritual honey every month. Taking spiritual pills and honey together could reduce the absorption of elixir toxins. He had been taking spiritual pills and spiritual honey to speed up his cultivation. He only needed about half a kilogram of spiritual honey every month. At least 5 kilograms of spiritual honey could be sold. Moreover, with the expansion of the colony, more royal jelly could be produced, which was much better than spiritual honey. Unfortunately, the royal jelly produced before was only enough for the queen bee. There was no surplus at all. Just from breaking through from the middle stage to the late stage of qi refining, the space of the spiritual pearl had such a big change. Wang Daoyuan couldn't wait to break through to the foundation establishment stage. Of course, he could only think about it. Even with so many resources, it would take 7 or 8 years to reach the peak of qi refining. Plus the accumulation before the breakthrough and the search for foundation establishment pills, he might not be able to reach the foundation establishment stage in 20 years. When he entered the space of the spiritual pearl, he didn't feel hungry. When he left the space, his body was about to collapse from hunger. He found the cooking utensils in the cave and directly cooked with fire talismans in the space of the spiritual pearl. After a full meal, Wang Daoyuan carried 2 jars of wine and swaggered out of the cave. Wang Shui saw his smug look and mocked. "Isn't it just a small breakthrough? Look at how smug you are. You don't even know your surname." Wang Daoyuan laughed and said, "How could I? Didn't I come to thank the 12th uncle? Without your guidance in the past 3 months, would I have broken through so early?" Finished speaking, he handed a jar of wine to Wang Shui. The two looked at each other and smiled, then raised their heads and drank it. Wang Shui laughed and said, "You finally broke through. I don't have to stay in this broken courtyard anymore. These 4 years have been suffocating me to death. I can't go out for a stroll, and I still have to look after a clever little brat like you. Do you think it's easy for me?" Before he finished speaking, Wang Shui had already run out of the Pill Seal Pavilion to experience life in the boundless secular world. Chapter 22. Wang Daoyuan was just planning where to go when Wang Jida came looking for him. Wang Daoyuan went up to greet him. "Greetings, 9th uncle. Grandson has just broken through to the 7th level of Qi disciple and was just about to report to you." Wang Jida knew that Wang Daoyuan's cultivation had long reached the peak of the 6th level of Qi disciple and was not surprised that he had broken through to the 7th level. Previously, he was worried that Wang Daoyuan's cultivation would be too hasty and his foundation would be unstable after breaking through. Now that he saw that Wang Daoyuan's aura was strong and there was no sense of emptiness, he was relieved. He stared at Wang Daoyuan suspiciously and said, "I'm afraid you're thinking about where to go for a stroll? Since you've broken through to the late stage of Qi disciple, your confinement order has been lifted and I can't be bothered with you. I came to find you because the clan leader ordered you and Shui to return to Jade Spring Peak immediately without delay." "Where's Shui? Didn't I order him to watch over you?" "After I broke through, the 12th uncle went out. 9th uncle, I want to go out and buy some things. Can you give me some time?" In order to break through to the late stage of Qi disciple as soon as possible, Wang Daoyuan had already used up all of his essence gathering pills. He just happened to need to go out and buy some of the local specialties produced in the space of the spirit pearl. For a cultivator with 5 spirit veins like him, increasing his cultivation mainly relied on resources. Among the various spirit plants in the space of the spirit pearl, only spirit grains could be used to increase cultivation for a long time. However, the effect was very poor and was only useful for meridian opening and early stage Qi disciple cultivators. The main use of spirit grains was to allay hunger. Cultivators needed to eat more than 5 kilograms of ordinary grains a day, but 1 kilogram of spirit grains could ensure that they would not be hungry for 3 days. For cultivators, there were too many impurities in grains. If they ate grains, the impurities would enter the body and cause their meridians to be blocked, causing their spirit power to not flow smoothly. In addition, they would need to relieve themselves every day, which was a waste of time. However, eating spirit grains did not have these problems. Although scarlet blood wine could also increase cultivation, its effect was far inferior to essence-gathering pills and the cost was too high. A jug of newly brewed scarlet blood wine weighed 5 kilograms and could be sold for 20 spirit stones. The effect of increasing cultivation was equivalent to a essence-gathering pill. Within the space of the spirit pearl, there were only 100 or so jars of scarlet blood wine. They were all stored in the cellar, and the landlord did not have any surplus. Even though there were a few spiritual herbs in the space that could be used to concoct the spirit-gathering pill, he had already harvested a few hundred portions over the past 4 years. However, eating it directly would be a waste. Wang Daoyuan had also accumulated 6 kilograms of honey, but he was not so extravagant as to use spiritual honey to enhance his cultivation. In the immortal cultivation world, spiritual honey was an important resource. Adding spiritual honey during alchemy could improve the quality of the elixir and greatly reduce the amount of elixir toxins left behind. Consuming elixir and spiritual honey together could reduce the absorption of elixir toxins. High-grade spiritual honey could even dissolve elixir toxins in the body. Adding spiritual honey to healing pills could increase their efficacy. Spiritual honey itself also had a little healing effect. When a body refinement cultivator was tempering their body, consuming spirit honey could protect their internal organs and prevent them from harming their foundation. The most important thing was that spirit honey could also be used to brew wine. Adding some spirit honey to scarlet blood wine would greatly increase its quality and efficacy. Unfortunately, he did not have the recipe to brew honey wine and could not directly brew spirit honey wine. Although Wang Daoyuan's spirit honey was only brewed from low-grade first-rank spirit bees, it did not lack the effects of spirit honey. It was just that it was much weaker than high-grade spirit honey, but it was better than nothing. However, eating it often still had a certain effect. Even the low-grade first-rank spirit honey had a market price of more than 100 spirit stones per kilogram, and it was still priceless. Using spirit honey to enhance one's cultivation, the effect of 1 kilogram of spirit honey was not as good as 5 essence-gathering pills, but the price was 10 times higher. In order to achieve the foundation establishment, he had to save up spirit stones as soon as possible to buy foundation establishment pills. A foundation establishment pill could increase the probability of a breakthrough by 20%. With Wang Daoyuan's 5 spiritual roots aptitude, he needed 5 pills to guarantee a 100% chance of a breakthrough. The price of a foundation establishment pill was more than 50,000 spirit stones, and it could only be found by chance. 5 pills would be at least 250,000 spirit stones. Even with the space in the spiritual pearl, it would take him more than 20 years to save up so many spirit stones after deducting his daily cultivation expenses. Wang Daoyuan was not a loose cultivator, he had his own clan. With sufficient resources, he still had to support his clan. Only when his clan was strong would he have more room for development. Although he was a true local rich man, he did not dare to squander too much. It would be better to sell the little bit of honey he had on hand for spirit stones. Selling it to the Pill Seal Pavilion could also take care of his clan's business. Wang Jida nodded and said, "All right, I'll give you 6 hours. After 6 hours, you must return to the Jade Spring Peak." Wang Daoyuan walked out of the Pill Seal Pavilion and found a secluded place. He changed into a black robe, a veil, and a bamboo hat. After taking a detour, he returned to the Pill Seal Pavilion. When he walked into the Pill Seal Pavilion, the person welcoming him was still Wang Daocheng. Wang Daocheng was quite valued by 10th great-uncle. It seemed that 9th great-uncle had put in a lot of effort. Wang Daocheng had a smile on his face as he welcomed him. "Daoyu, what do you want?" Wang Daoyuan took out the discount iron plate. "I'll give you 100 spirit-gathering pills, 200 high-grade Tier 1 talisman papers, and 50 kilograms of spirit ink." He had already harvested a few stalks of the 10-year-old yellow cloud grass in the spirit pearl space. He did not lack talisman papers at all, but he still had not found spirit ink. His main goal was the spirit ink. The talisman papers were just a cover. These 4 years, he did not rest. He made talisman papers and refined spirit talismans. He already had 600 to 700 high-grade Tier 1 talismans in his hands. Wang Daoyuan said in a low voice, "I still have some things to sell. It's just that it's not suitable to take them out in public." Wang Daocheng was a shrewd person. When he heard this, he immediately understood that this was a big business. He led Wang Daoyuan to a room on the 2nd floor. Entering the room, he saw Wang Jiha sitting in the room. Wang Daocheng turned and left the room, closing the door behind him. Once Wang Daocheng left, Wang Jiha opened his mouth. "I wonder what Daoyu wants to sell? There are only the 2 of us here. Can you take it out and let me have a look?" Wang Daoyuan took out a wine jar and pretended to be old. "The things I want to sell are all here. Shopkeeper, you'll know at a glance." Wang Jiha opened the wine jar. A sweet fragrance wafted out. He took a strong sniff and glanced into the jar. Then, he closed the jar. He said without showing any emotion, "This is Tier 1 low-grade spiritual honey. The source of the honey is the spiritual grain flour. It weighs 6 caddies. The quality of the spiritual honey is very good. There are no impurities. This jar of spiritual honey costs 600 spirit stones. What do you think, Daoyu?" Wang Daoyuan admired him in his heart. With just a sniff and a glance, he could tell the quality of the spiritual honey and the source of the spiritual honey. As expected, not just anyone could be a shopkeeper. With this kind of experience, one could not even think about it without decades of accumulation. Wang Daoyuan pretended to be angry. Daoyu really knows how to do business. 600 spirit stones for 6 caddies of spiritual honey of such quality. Where can you find such a business? I'll take 700 spirit stones. No bargaining. It was not that Wang Daoyuan was stingy and did not want to let his family take advantage of him. It was just that the price was too low and would arouse suspicion. The actual value of 6 caddies of spiritual honey was more than 700 spirit stones. It was normal to sell it for 1,000 spirit stones to someone who needed it urgently. Hearing Wang Daoyuan's words, Wang Jihe was not angry. Instead, he laughed. He was waiting for the other party to make an offer. 700 spirit stones for 6 caddies of spiritual honey of good quality was a big profit. The Wang family had alchemists and winemakers. Using 6 caddies of spiritual honey for alchemy and winemaking would definitely bring in more than 1,000 spirit stones. Daoyu is indeed a straightforward person. Then I can't be too unhappy. 700 spirit stones. Then he took out 7 mid-grade spirit stones and handed them to Wang Daoyuan. Wang Daoyuan thought he even took out mid-grade spirit stones. He wants to be on good terms with me. 1 mid-grade spirit stone was worth 100 low-grade spirit stones. However, on the market, it was usually 110 low-grade spirit stones to exchange for 1 mid-grade spirit stone. Even then, there were not necessarily people who were willing to make the exchange. Needless to say, in the black market, 1 mid-grade spirit stone could be exchanged for 150 to 60 low-grade spirit stones. Mid-grade spirit stones contained much purer spiritual qi. Whether it was used to restore spiritual power or improve cultivation, the effect would be more than 100 low-grade spirit stones. After bidding farewell to Wang Jihe, he went to the first floor to get the soul-gathering pill, talisman paper, and spirit ink. After paying the spirit stones, he turned and left the Dan Seal Pavilion. Chapter 23. Wang Daoyuan strolled around the old shop for a while, but there was nothing he wanted to buy. When he returned to the Alchemy Seal Pavilion, Wang Shui had already returned. The two of them arrived at the dock behind the Jade Spring General Store, where the spirit ship was already waiting for them. The spirit ship was still the same kind of spirit ship used to transport goods when they left the mountain. The only difference was that this time, the ship was going against the current and required spirit stones or a cultivator's spiritual force to drive it. The spirit ship wasn't loaded with any large cargo and was almost empty. With the help of several family disciples, the speed was even faster than when they left the mountain. In less than a day, the Jade Spring Peak was already in sight. Standing on the boat and gazing into the distance, one could only see the Jade Spring Peak shrouded in clouds and mist, and the Jade Dragon stream meandered through the mountains, as if a jade dragon was faintly discernible within the clouds. At the top of the mountain, the pavilions and terraces seemed to be there but not there. It really did have the atmosphere of a celestial mountain. The spirit ship cut through the waves on the river, moving as if it was flying. Not long after, it arrived at the foot of Jade Spring Peak. The clan leader ordered the two of them to return immediately without delay. There must be something urgent. The two of them naturally didn't dare to delay. They didn't even return to their respective cave residences and went straight to the assembly hall. The core buildings of the clan were all near the Jade Dragon Spring. The ancestral temple was on a large rock to the north of the Jade Dragon Spring. The meeting hall was on the east side of the Jade Dragon Spring. The administrative hall was on the southeast side of the Jade Dragon Spring. The discussion hall was the place where the patriarch and the elders of the clan discussed matters. All matters of the clan, big or small, were discussed here. The south bank of the Jade Dragon Spring was relatively low, and the spring water flowed into the Jade Dragon Stream from here. The Jade Dragon Spring was a spirit spring, and also the spirit eye of the Jade Spring Peak spirit vein. The so-called spirit eye was the place where the spirit chi was the densest in his spirit vein. The spring water was filled with spiritual energy and was extremely effective when used to water the spiritual fields. The spiritual fields on Jade Spring Peak were all distributed on both sides of the Jade Dragon Stream. When Wang Daoyuan and Wang Jian walked out of the assembly hall, they heard Patriarch Wang Jian say, "This time, the Netherworld sect has issued a conscription order, conscripting the disciples of the affiliated clans to go to Wild Goose Mountain's Wild Goose Valley to clean up the demonic beasts that threaten the Wild Goose Valley's trade routes. Our Wang clan will send out 1 foundation establishment cultivator and 10 chi refinement cultivators. There were only a few rank 2 demonic beasts that could threaten the trade route. The rest were all rank 1 demonic beasts. The cleanup mission isn't that dangerous, so what I'm thinking is to send out a few disciples with good aptitudes. Just treat it as training. I will personally lead the team. My 12th brother, Ji Ming, is an expert in alchemy and healing. If he goes with us, the injured family members can be treated as soon as possible. In addition, Shui's cultivation had already reached the peak of qi refinement. Cultivating in seclusion wouldn't be of much use. Instead, he should gain more experience and follow along. Dao Xing's cultivation had also reached the 8th level of qi refinement. It was time for him to go out and experience the killing. There's also Dao Yuan. Thanks to his cleverness, he managed to fool all the foundation establishment cultivators. Otherwise, our Wang clan would have suffered a great loss. This time, he should be able to gain a lot by bringing him along. Elders, do you have anything to add? Wang Daoxing was ranked 2nd among his peers. He had 2 spiritual roots, and his main spiritual root was a metal spiritual root. Among his peers, his spiritual root was 2nd only to Wang Daocheng. It was also very likely that he would reach the foundation establishment stage. None of the elders had any objections. The patriarch continued, "Since that's the case, then it's decided." Wang Daoyuan and Wang Shui entered the meeting hall. Wang Jian saw the 2 of them. "You heard it too. Get ready and set off as soon as possible." He then glanced at Wang Daoyuan and said, 20 years old and already at the 7th level of qi refinement. Your 2nd and 3rd brother are also at this speed. However, cultivation needs to be down to earth. You must know that more haste, less speed. If you blindly strive for speed and your foundation isn't stable, you'll be in big trouble. Judging from your vigorous aura, you should know the severity of the matter. I won't say too much. Also, most pills have pill toxins. If you rely too much on pills, pill toxins will accumulate in your body. Once they erupt, your foundation will be damaged at best, and your life will be in danger at worst. Wang Daoyuan repeatedly said yes, but he didn't think so in his heart. He had sufficient spiritual honey. Although Tier 1 spiritual honey couldn't dispel the pill toxins in his body, taking pills and spiritual honey together could greatly reduce the absorption of pill toxins and suppress the pill toxins in his body. Therefore, although Wang Daoyuan often took pills, the pill toxins in his body didn't accumulate much. With his body's condition, even if he took pills and spiritual honey together for several decades, there wouldn't be any hidden dangers of pill toxins erupting. A day later, Wang Shui took Wang Daoyuan and 10 other qi refinement cultivators and left Jade Spring Peak. They headed for Gold Goose City, which was more than 5,000 li to the west. Gold Goose City was at the southern end of Guiyan Valley. It was an immortal city. Most of the people living in the city were cultivators. A few mortals were also descendants of cultivators. Gold Goose City was originally a stronghold. Huiyan Mountain towered into the clouds, separating the north from the south. After thousands of years of fighting, the human race completely occupied the south of Huiyan Mountain. Under the repeated sweeps by the human race, the demon race in the east of Huiyan Mountain was no longer a threat. Most of the demon beasts fled to the west of Huiyan Mountain, which was tens of thousands of li away. That place was sparsely populated and was still the territory of the demon race. Therefore, Huiyan Mountain became the dividing line between the human race and the demon race. The south of the mountain was the territory of the human race, and the north of the mountain was inhabited by the human race and the demon race. Huiyan Mountain as a whole was high in the west and low in the east. The main mountain range had been hidden thousands of li away from Gold Goose City. In the area of Gold Goose City, there were few continuous mountains. Most of them were relatively isolated peaks. To the east, they were connected with the scattered peaks in the periphery of Tianzhan mountain range. Even so, for the human race, the mountain road in the east of Huiyan Mountain was rugged and difficult to travel. It was still an insurmountable moat. Of course, Huiyan Mountain was not without flaws. In the whole mountain range, there were several relatively flat mountain roads that could connect the north and south. Guiyan Valley was one of them. In order to prevent the demon race from using these mountain roads to sneak attack, the human race built fortresses at the southern end of each mountain road. Among the many fortresses, Gold Goose City was somewhat special. Guiyan Valley was the widest, flattest and shortest mountain road in Huiyan Mountain. Wild geese in the north of the mountain flew to the south. It was difficult to cross Huiyan Mountain. Only from Guiyan Valley to the north and south of the mountain, Guiyan Valley got its name. In recent hundreds of years, the battle between the human race and the demon race had decreased. The two races began to have business dealings. The Guiyan Valley, which was the best to go through, became the most important trade route. Every year, a large number of goods went from Guiyan Valley to the north and south. This trade route brought a lot of income to the ghost sect. However, since 2 years ago, the caravans were often attacked by the demon beasts. The cultivators of the ghost sect who escorted the caravans suffered heavy losses. The loss of goods also made the ghost sect feel painful. What was more serious was the Guiyan market at the northern end of Guiyan Valley, which was the trading place of the two races. The caravans were attacked again and again, which seriously affected the trade between the two races. Once the trade was interrupted, the two races could not get what they needed through trade. It was very likely that they would get the resources they needed through war. Therefore, the ghost sect spent a lot of effort to investigate the attack. The results of the investigation showed that the attack might be the spontaneous behavior of some remaining demon beasts in Huiyan Mountain. There were spirit veins and plants, so naturally, there would be demon beasts. The narrowest part of Huiyan Mountain was nearly 2,000 to 3,000 miles. The demon beasts hiding in it could not be killed. Demon beasts attacking the caravans happened from time to time on the various trade routes in Huiyan Mountain. It was not a rare thing. The investigation found that the demon beasts were entrenched in the forest hundreds of miles around Guiyan Valley. There were tens of thousands of demon beasts. Fortunately, there were no demon beasts above the 3rd rank. Otherwise, it would be troublesome. Even so, it would take a lot of effort to eliminate the demon beasts. The most difficult thing was not to defeat the demon beasts, but to ensure that no demon beasts escaped the net. If they only defeated the demon beasts, they would scatter and flee. After a while, they would come back again and attack the caravans endlessly. In order to completely solve the problem, the ghost sect recruited 3,000 cultivators from the affiliated forces, 1,000 rogue cultivators, and 1,000 soldiers, a total of 5,000 cultivators. In addition, there were 3 elders of the Purple Mansion sect. Chapter 24. There were 11 people in the Wang clan, except for the clan leader, the 2 elders Wang Shui and Wang Jiming, and the 2 juniors Wang Daoyuan and Wang Daoxing. The other 6 people were all white-haired old men. These 6 people were all from the Ji generation, and they were all old cultivators who did not have a high cultivation base and had no skills. 2 of them were more than 110 years old, and the lifespan of a qi refining cultivator was only 120 years old. Cultivators fought with others all their lives, and it was inevitable that there would be hidden injuries that would affect their lifespan. Therefore, very few cultivators could live to the limit of their lifespan, and these 2 granduncles could pass away at any time. The other 4 were slightly younger, but they were also more than 100 years old. To put it bluntly, the 6 of them were cannon fodder. Whenever there was a conscription, most of the people sent by the clan were cannon fodder. The purpose of the sect conscripting cultivators from the affiliated forces was to be cannon fodder for the sect cultivators and reduce the casualties of the sect cultivators. The clans were not fools. For the continuation of the clan, it was impossible to send the clan members with good aptitude or skills to die. Therefore, the clan members who were older and had no skills were pulled out to make up the numbers. Of course, these cannon fodder would not die in vain. Once they were used as cannon fodder, regardless of whether they were dead or alive, the clan would give them a sum of spirit stones or resources. Once they died in battle, the sect that issued the conscription order would also give them a pension. Originally, they did not have many years to live, but in order for their descendants to get more resources and go further on the path of cultivation, they were willing to die in battle for the clan. Wang Jian was a foundation establishment cultivator and could fly on his sword. Golden Goose City was more than 5,000 miles away from Jade Spring Peak, and he could make a round trip in half a day. However, Wang Daoyuan and the others were qi refining cultivators. Unless they had flying magic tools or flying spirit beasts, they could only rely on their 2 legs to hurry. With 10 qi refining cultivators to take care of, Wang Jian naturally could not fly on his sword and could only walk with them. However, foundation establishment was foundation establishment after all. Even if they were walking, it was not something that qi refining cultivators could catch up with. The 10 qi refining cultivators could only use the divine travel talisman and activate it with all their strength to barely keep up with Wang Jian. The group of people hurried on foot. In order to take care of the 6 old granduncles, they only walked 700 to 800 miles a day, and finally arrived at Golden Goose City on the 7th day. The Golden Goose City had a circumference of more than 10 miles, which was not big among the mortal cities. The city wall was built with rocks mined from Mount Huiyin. It was densely engraved with runes, giving off an indestructible feeling. The city wall was about 30 meters tall. Giant crossbows were placed on top of the battlements, and the arrowheads were shining with a cold light. Unfortunately, Wang Daoyuan knew nothing about refining tools, so he couldn't tell what grade the magic tool was. When the group arrived at the city gate, there was already a large group of people queuing up. The crowd was divided into 2 groups. In one group, there were dozens of people wearing the same clothes. They were all cultivators from the affiliated forces of the Netherworld sect. The other group of people was dressed in a disorderly manner. They were either in groups of 3 to 5 or standing alone outside the crowd. It was a bit of a stretch to say that they were queuing. These people were all rogue cultivators recruited by the Netherworld sect. The group from the Wang family was dressed in white Daoist robes. Apart from the golden dragon fish embroidered on the cuffs, they looked plain and unadorned. There weren't many of them, so they didn't attract much attention as they lined up at the back of the group. It was quite troublesome for a group of rogue cultivators to enter the city. They also needed to register their name, cultivation level, and other information before they could enter the city. The group of clan cultivators entered the city relatively quickly. They just needed to show their conscription order and prove their identity to get a pass. Even so, a clan had at least 10 people and at most dozens of people. It was also very time-consuming to register them one by one. The group from the Wang family queued for more than 4 hours. Finally, there was only one clan left in front. At this time, a sharp eagle cry came from the sky. Looking up, a bird appeared in the sky in the west. It was only a silhouette and couldn't be seen clearly. When the bird came closer, it turned out to be a giant golden eagle. It emitted the pressure of a Zifu realm cultivator. The qi refining cultivators in the queue all turned pale and struggled to circulate their spiritual power to resist. There were more than 30 people sitting on the back of the golden eagle. Among them, there were 3 foundation establishment cultivators and the rest were late-stage qi refining cultivators. This strength was enough to forcibly break into the Wang family's Jade Spring Peak. The golden eagle landed and the 30 people dismounted. They wore golden Daoist robes and arrogantly walked past the people in the queue to get their passes. Apart from the 2 brothers Wang Daoyuan and Wang Daoxing, the rest of the Wang family were all experienced old foxes. Wang Daoyuan had also lived 2 lives, so he naturally wouldn't be angered. Wang Daoxing's temper wasn't good. Just as he was about to flare up, he was stopped by Wang Shui and Wang Daoyuan. The Wang family didn't say anything, and the clans behind them didn't bother to pay them any attention. However, the Li family at the front of the queue wasn't happy. The Li family also had the intention of training their young disciples, so they brought a lot of young people. Someone disregarded their clan like this. The young people couldn't take it lying down. A young disciple of the Li family couldn't bear it anymore. He walked forward and angrily rebuked, "Seeing that you're also from a cultivation family, don't you even understand the principle of first come first serve? You're a disgrace to our cultivation family." The leading golden-robed man looked to be in his 40s. His appearance was rather unique, like a basketball with half a football on it. Coupled with his golden robe, if he had a copper coin in his mouth, he would be a living three-legged golden toad. He could be placed in a shop to attract money. Hearing someone rebuke him, he turned around and saw that it was only a young man in the middle stage of qi refining. The golden toad couldn't help but fly into a rage out of humiliation. "Little brat, you're not even fully grown yet you dare to yell here. You don't even know how to respect your elders. I'll teach you a lesson on behalf of your elders." After saying that, he waved his palm. A beam of golden light shot towards the young man from the Li clan who had spoken out. The leader of the Li family was the clan leader, who was also a foundation establishment cultivator. He reached out his hand to block the golden light. "Daoyu has such a big temper. Even if my Li family's disciples are in the wrong, it's not up to you to teach them a lesson. Besides, he's right." The golden toad was at a loss for words. His face turned red. 3 foundation establishment cultivators from his family stood out, intending to use their power to suppress them. The Li family only had 2 foundation establishment cultivators and 20 qi refining cultivators. Many of them were in the middle stage of qi refining. With 1 less foundation establishment cultivator, the qi refining cultivators were at a disadvantage. Once the battle started, the Li family would definitely lose. The Li family's clan leader was in a difficult position. He was already in a difficult position. If they fought, they definitely wouldn't be able to win. The family's disciples would suffer heavy losses. If they gave in, it would be shameful and they would be blackmailed. Just as he was in a dilemma, a foundation establishment cultivator wearing a white robe and carrying a long sword on his back walked forward. He advised, "It's better to squash enmity than to keep it alive. Everyone is here to wipe out the demon beasts. Why make things unpleasant over such a small matter? Don't fight among yourselves and delay the important matters." This white-robed cultivator was Wang Jian. Wang Jian and the Li family's clan leader Li Xinghe had been good friends for many years. Seeing his good friend in trouble, he naturally wanted to help. Now that the Wang family still had some face in the Netherworld sect, he should be able to help them out by persuading them. Who knew that this golden toad was a hothead? Not only did he not take advantage of the situation, he even went from bad to worse. He scolded Wang Shui, "You dare to interfere in this matter? Looks like the Wang family's wings have hardened. Don't think that the Netherworld sect will care about you just because you offered the clear river carp. How dare the remnants of the Zhao family be so impudent in front of me? My family's patriarch is an elder of the Netherworld sect. Your Wang family is just a dog raised by the Netherworld sect. How dare you bare your teeth in front of the patriarch? You must be tired of living." Before he finished speaking, the Wang family was furious and took out their magic tools. Wang Daoyuan also took out his profound yang sword and got into position. He was just waiting for the clan leader's order to kill them. Previously, the golden-robed family was arrogant and didn't target any family. But now, they were directly insulting the Wang family. If they were to tolerate this, the Wang family wouldn't be able to raise their heads in front of others anymore. When the words of "golden toad" came out, not only were the Wang family's disciples furious, most of the family's cultivators were unhappy. Chapter 25. The 3 sects had only been in charge of Zhao for 300 years. Their disciples didn't establish many families, and most of them hadn't developed yet. Most of the affiliated families of the Ghost sect were the remnants of the Zhao family. These families had participated in the war against the three sects, either voluntarily or forced. They still remembered the blood feud between them. To maintain stability, the three sects had to digest the results as soon as possible and increase their strength. The Ghost sect adopted a divide-and-conquer strategy against the remnants of the Zhao family. The families that had marriage alliances with the Zhao family or caused great casualties to the Ghost sect were all exterminated. The families that didn't have much to do with the Zhao family adopted a conciliatory policy. Of course, they were also punished. The disciples of the Ghost sect had established many families and seized many old families' territories and resources. The two sides didn't like each other. The Ghost sect was powerful, and it prohibited the affiliated families from fighting among themselves. Although the old and new families fought with each other secretly, they were still harmonious on the surface. Golden Toad's words put the secret struggle on the surface. On the surface, he was scolding the Wang family, but in fact, he was scolding all the old families. The Li family and the Wang family were both old families, and they were the representatives of the old families who were close to the Ghost sect. Li Xinghe's brother, Li Xinghai, was very talented. He had joined the Purple Mansion Elder of the Ghost sect and was now in the middle stage of foundation establishment. With him, the Li family could be said to be a direct descendant of the Ghost sect. Although the Wang family didn't have any foundation establishment disciples in the Ghost sect, they were famous among the old families for being obedient. Wherever the Ghost sect pointed, the Wang family would fight. Not to mention the Qing River carp that caused a stir 4 years ago. The Wang family took the initiative to hand over the Qing River carp and got the job of raising the Qing River carp for the Ghost sect. This job wasn't given to anyone in the Wang family, but to the Wang family. If the person passed away, the job could be given to someone else. This job was given to the Wang family. As long as the Wang family didn't perish, this job would belong to the Wang family. There weren't many families that could have a job in the Ghost sect. Most of the direct descendants didn't have this treatment. It could be said that the Wang family's status in the Ghost sect was higher than the Li family. The Wang and Li families were typical examples of local families that integrated into the Ghost sect. They were the bones of the horses that the Ghost sect bought with money. And today, the two horses that should have been treated kindly were slapped on the spot. This slap was also on the faces of all the clans that had thrown themselves into the arms of the Netherworld sect. In the eyes of the direct descendants of the Netherworld sect, the old families were the remnants of evil, and the families that actively approached the Netherworld sect were dogs that could be killed at any time. Golden Toad saw the strange expressions on the cultivators' faces and realized that he had misspoken. But he couldn't bring himself to take back his words. Now Jin Chan was in a dilemma. If he couldn't take them down quickly and alerted the elder of the underworld sect in the city, he would have to bear the consequences. If he took a step back and took back his words, he would lose face, and even the Purple Mansion sect's elder would lose face. If he didn't advance or retreat, not only would he lose face, he would also have to bear the crime of creating internal strife. With no other choice, he made up his mind and prepared to be ruthless. Even if things got out of hand, he could put the blame on the Wang and Li families. Even if they had people in the sect, they wouldn't openly offend the Purple Mansion Elder's family. It was very likely that they would turn a big matter into a small one, and a small matter into nothing. The other families and individual cultivators present would not offend the Purple Mansion Elder for two small families. Most of them would just stand by and watch. Wang Daoyuan had been staring at Golden Toad all the time. Seeing his strange expression and fierce eyes, he knew that this old man wanted to take action. He immediately sent a message to the clan leader. "Clan leader, be careful. This Golden Toad wants to attack you." Golden Toad waved his hand and a flying sword flew out from his sleeve and went straight to Wang Jian. Wang Jian was also a veteran. With Wang Daoyuan's reminder, the long sword on his back flew out and easily blocked the attack. Golden Toad was about to continue his attack when a strong pressure came from the sky. Not many cultivators of the Qi refining stage could stand. Only Wang Shui from the Wang family could still stand. Wang Daoyuan tried several times but couldn't stand up. He could only sit on the ground. Even the cultivators of the foundation establishment stage had to use their spiritual power to resist. It turned out that the guards at the city gates saw the conflict between the families in the line and immediately reported to the Purple Mansion elder in the city. The Gold Goose City elder was called Lu Jinhui. When he received the news that someone was causing trouble, he hurried over. Because flying was prohibited in the city and there were many people in this special period, his speed was affected. As soon as he stepped out of the city gate, he saw the golden-robed man attacking Wang Jian. He wanted to stop him, but it was too late. Wang Jian received the attack unscathed, and he heaved a sigh of relief. Golden Toad still didn't give up. He could only release his pressure to show off his power. Seeing that everyone was shocked, Lu Jinhui asked, Wang Jian, Li Xinghe, Jin Yugui, why are you three fighting here? Golden Toad was called Jin Yugui. He was the clan leader of the Jin family. One of the patriarchs of the Jin family was the Purple Mansion elder of the Netherworld sect. Jin Yugui wanted to complain first. However, Wang Jian was a smart person. He didn't give him a chance to speak first. He said, Elder Lu, the cause of this fight is only a small matter. The Jin family didn't want to line up in front of the city gate. They cut in front of the Li family and wanted to enter the city immediately. A little friend of the Li family couldn't stand it and talked back to Jin Daoyu. Jin Daoyu was angry and wanted to teach the Li family's little friend a lesson. Li Daoyu tried to stop him. I was afraid that things would get out of hand, so I came out to mediate. Unexpectedly, Jin Daoyu was angry and scolded me. Elder, you also saw the rest. Lu Jinhui asked, what did he scold? Wang Jian repeated Jin Yugui's words to him. Lu Jinhui heard it and knew that it was bad. Jin Yugui said something that shouldn't be said. If this matter was not handled well, many families would be disappointed. If Jin Yugui was severely punished, he would offend the ancestor of the Jin family. If he wasn't punished, it meant that the Ghost sect admitted Jin Yugui's words. In the future, it would be difficult for the Ghost sect to get the families to work for them. After a fierce ideological struggle, Lu Jinhui's character of considering the big picture came into play. He decided to punish Jin Yugui and appease the families. However, for the unity of the Ghost sect, he couldn't punish him severely. After making the decision, Lu Jinhui scolded Jin Yugui. This time, all families gathered in the Golden Goose City to clean up the demonic beasts. This is a big event for the Ghost sect. As the descendant of Elder Jin, you don't think about the Ghost sect, but... Before Lu Jinhui finished his words, he heard a creepy voice. Hey, Elder Lu, why do you have to lower yourself to the juniors level? Jin Yugui made a slip of the tongue. It's just a small matter. Why do you have to make such a big fuss? What's more, now is the time to use people. Let him redeem himself. Wang Daoyuan looked in the direction of the voice. He saw a man in a black cloak that covered his face. He was a little stooped and held a bone stick in his right hand. He looked like an old man. With just a glance at the black-robed old man, Wang Daoyuan's hair stood on end and goosebumps appeared all over his body. After that, the old man in the black robe transmitted a message to Lu Jinhui. Elder Lu, is it worth offending Elder Jin and causing a faction fight in the sect for a few small families? Lu Jinhui was devoted to the public. If it was just offending Elder Jin, he was not afraid. But when it came to faction fights, he had to think about it. Chapter 26. The Underworld sect was divided into 3 factions: the native faction, the family faction, and the foreign faction. The native faction was born and raised in the sect. Their elders were the cultivators of the Underworld sect, and their ancestors were even the founding elders of the sect. This faction had the highest status in the sect, and they were also the strongest. Lu Jinhui, as well as Elder Zhou of Clearglass City, were all members of this faction. The Golden Core cultivators of the Underworld sect were all native factions. The other 2 factions were no match for the native faction. This was also the most fundamental reason why the Underworld sect could maintain its stability. The native faction cultivators and family members all lived in the Underworld sect. The mortals also lived near the mountain gate of the Underworld sect. They didn't set up another sect far away from the sect. Therefore, the native faction didn't have much conflict with the affiliated families, and their attitude towards the affiliated families was also relatively gentle. The family faction and the foreign faction were not native forces of the underworld sect. The foreign faction's predecessors were small sects that were annexed by the underworld sect, or they took the initiative to join. There were also some evil cultivators who joined the underworld sect. Before this faction joined the underworld sect, they had a very deep relationship with each other. After joining the underworld sect, they formed a group and formed the second largest faction. This faction couldn't compete with the native faction in the underworld sect, and they didn't want to be suppressed. Therefore, they all established families outside the underworld sect and actively developed their forces. If the foreign faction wanted to develop and grow, it was necessary to seize the interests of the old family. The conflict between the two was very deep. The foreign faction's attitude towards the Zhao family's remnants was also very tough. They advocated for the Zhao family's remnants to be exterminated. The Liang family's ancestor and the black-robed old man were both from the foreign faction. The Jin family's ancestor was the leader of the foreign faction. Elder Jin's cultivation had already reached the peak of the Zifu realm. After many years of polishing, he could form the golden core at any time. His status in the underworld sect was very high. It could be said that he was the number one person below the golden core. Moreover, Elder Jin was a vengeful person. He was also vicious and merciless. Not many people were willing to offend him. The family faction was made up of loose cultivators or family members. After joining the underworld sect, they obtained a relatively high status. However, outside the underworld sect, there were still families. Because of their birth, they were very close to the old families in the underworld sect. The elders of the family faction didn't have any special relationship with each other, and it was very difficult to unite. Therefore, they were the weakest of the three factions. Most of the higher-ups were elders without any powerful representatives. Yang Yong was already one of the people with the highest status in this faction. Because they were weak, the only way to strengthen themselves was to ally with the old families. Once the old family was completely integrated into the underworld sect, the only choice was to ally with the family branch. At that time, the family branch would be able to crush the foreign branch and compete with the local branch. The attitude towards the old family became the focus of the game between the three factions of the Netherworld sect. If the old family clan was destroyed, the foreign branch's strength would develop rapidly. If the old family clan was merged, the family branch's strength would increase greatly. Neither of these situations were what the local faction wanted to see. The main forces of the other two factions were outside of the Netherworld sect. Whether the Netherworld sect was strong or weak, it didn't affect the other two factions much. All of the local faction's strength was within the Netherworld sect. Only when the Netherworld sect was powerful could the local faction obtain more benefits. Therefore, the local faction's attitude was to divide the old family. Destroying a part of it and merging another part of it would balance the two forces and maintain the stability of the Netherworld sect. The best result for the Underworld sect would be to gradually disintegrate the two factions and merge the two factions into the local faction. In addition to the conflict of interest, the three factions also had differences in the inheritance. From the name of the sect, it could be seen that the inheritance of the Netherworld sect was mainly based on the ghost path and was supplemented by the corpse path. It was a proper evil sect. The cultivators of the foreign branch were also evil. Ghost, corpse, demon, and other inheritances were mixed, but they were still the same as the inheritance of the Netherworld sect. As for the members of the family branch, their inheritances were very messy. They were mainly righteous, which was incompatible with the other two factions. This was also an important reason why the status of the family branch was not high. After receiving the message from the black-robed elder, Lu Jinhui pondered for a long time and finally said, "Jin Yugue, you should be severely punished for speaking rudely. However, now that we are facing a great enemy, we are in need of people. I will allow you to take the blame and make contributions. If you don't do your best in the next battle, you will be severely punished. In addition, you insulted the Wang and Li families. You should apologize." At this time, the black-robed elder said, "This concerns Elder Jin's face. There is no need to apologize." Lu Jinhui had no choice. It was not good for anyone to fall out with him. He just comforted the Wang and Li families and turned to leave. The black-robed elder glanced at the people present and left with Lu Jinhui. The families continued to register to enter the city, and the Jin family was at the front. However, now no one cared about the order of entering the city. The people in charge of each old family team were thinking about whether it was necessary to integrate into the Netherworld sect. Wang Daoyuan thought in his heart, "From this incident, it can be seen that the Netherworld sect's attitude towards the old family is very different." Yang Yong strongly advocated to accept the old family, while the black-robed elder and Elder Jin advocated to destroy the old family. Lu Jinhui did not have a clear attitude and had been trying to smooth things over. Obviously, the cultivators who advocated to accept the old family did not have the advantage. It seemed that it was necessary to mention this matter to the patriarch later. The strategy of the Wang family to integrate into the Netherworld sect should be changed. After experiencing a storm, the cultivators who registered their identity at the gate of the city were afraid of another accident, so they also sped up. In less than 15 minutes, the Wang family entered the city. Golden Goose City was not big, and the layout of the city was very simple. 2 roads, one vertical and one horizontal, connected the 4 gates and intersected in the center of the city, dividing the whole city into 4 parts. The center of the city was a crossroads. The official institutions in the city were all around the crossroads. The east of the city was the marketplace, where all kinds of shops were. The southwest of the city was the residential area, and the northwest of the city was the military camp and the armory of the cultivators guarding the city. The Wang family found an inn in the east of the city to stay. This inn was called Immortal Inn, which was the property of the Yang family. After staying in the inn, the 6 elders of the Wang family went back to their rooms to rest, and the others discussed in the patriarch's room. Soon, someone came to the door. The person was wearing a blue robe with the symbol of the Yang family's Yang tree. His face was similar to Yang Yong, and he should be the direct descendant of Yang Yong. When Wang Jian saw the person, he quickly got up and said, "Brother Ziyuan, what's the matter?" The person was called Yang Ziyuan, the eldest grandson of Yang Yong and the current patriarch of the Yang family. Wang Daoyuan quickly moved a chair and said, "Senior, please sit down." Yang Ziyuan did not refuse, sat down and said, "Brother Jian, I already know what happened outside the city gate today. Elder Jin and Liang are the same people, and they have always advocated to completely eliminate the old family. Most people in the Netherworld sect do not agree with this approach." This group of people took a step back and suppressed the old family to snatch resources. Elder Jin has a high position and power in the Netherworld sect. Even grandfather does not dare to provoke him. In the future, the Wang family should avoid the Jin family as much as possible to avoid being found trouble by the Jin family. Although Wang Jian was very unhappy, he also knew that the Wang family could not afford to offend the Jin family. No matter how good the relationship between the Wang and Yang families was, it was also impossible to let the Yang family risk their lives for them. If their strength was not enough, they could only pretend to be subservient. Wang Jian sighed and said, "Brother Xin, don't worry. I know the severity of the matter. My Wang family's disciples will avoid the Jin family." Yang Ziyuan nodded and said, "Then I'm relieved. When the time comes, the Wang family and my Yang family will act together. No matter how rude and unreasonable the Jin family is, they will not find trouble in front of the Yang family." Chapter 27. Hearing Yang Ziyuan's arrangement, Wang Jian also breathed a sigh of relief. At least during the demonic beast cleanup period, the Jin family wouldn't come looking for trouble. As for afterwards, the 2 families were separated by tens of thousands of miles and had no business dealings. Even if the Jin family was a mad dog, they wouldn't go to the Jade Spring Peak to cause trouble for such a small matter. Yang Ziyuan bid farewell and left. "So cowardly!" Wang Daoxing was furious. The Jin family caused trouble, but they didn't punish them at all. Instead, they made us cowards. Wang Jian said, Daoyuan, what do you think? Endure. What else? Wang Daoyuan whispered, the walls have ears. Wang Jian laughed and said, I really didn't misjudge you. Daoyuan, you can see the pros and cons at such a young age. This time, your family was bullied, but you swallowed it and didn't show it. When we were outside the city, you could see that Jin Yugue wanted to attack me. You're even more cautious than me. Although your cultivation aptitude isn't good, you're still a promising talent. This time, I brought you with me to let you gain more experience. In the family, there are people with high cultivation aptitudes, people who are experienced in human relationships, and people who are proficient in the arts of cultivation, but what we lack the most is a leader. In the Shou generation, only your 12th uncle has this potential. Unfortunately, she has an idle personality and isn't willing to take on this burden. In your generation, only you and Dao Chang have the potential to be leaders. Dao Chang has the highest cultivation aptitude and puts all his energy into cultivation. He's still too inexperienced in this aspect. You, on the other hand, are so experienced at such a young age. If I didn't watch you grow up, I would really suspect that you're an old monster in disguise. If you can build your foundation in the future, you'll definitely be the leader of the family. Even if you can't build your foundation, you can still take charge. After hearing Wang Jian's words, Wang Daoyuan felt a lingering fear in his heart. In his previous life, he had followed the old Daoist to swindle people. He relied on seeing the ways of the world and grasping opportunities to make a living. In this aspect, the old Daoist had taught him well. He had thought that since the mortals of this world were still in the agricultural civilization phase and the immortal cultivators pursued immortality all their lives, they should not be as sophisticated as the people in the information explosion era. Now, it seemed that he had underestimated the people of this world. He didn't expect that his abnormality had already been noticed by the clan leader. Fortunately, the one who noticed him was the clan leader and not the enemy. It seemed that he had to restrain himself in the future. There was a lingering fear in his heart, but he did not show it on his face. He said modestly, "Fifth great uncle, you flatter me." Wang Jian said seriously, "I can't be wrong about people. It's good that you know modesty. Remember, showing your cleverness isn't true cleverness. Great wisdom is great wisdom if you don't show your cleverness. Of course, it's already very rare for someone of your age to be so shrewd." Wang Daoyuan cupped his hands and said, "I will remember fifth granduncle's teachings." The underworld sect was still gathering people. The official time for the operation was set to be 5 days later. Everyone in the Wang family was strictly ordered by the patriarch not to take even half a step out of the inn. The few elders had lived for more than 100 years. What kind of hardships had they not experienced? What kind of scenes had they not seen? Being cooped up in the house was nothing. Although Wang Shi liked to stroll, as long as there was wine, he could endure anywhere. Wang Daoyuan had just been locked up for a few years. Not being able to go out for a few days was nothing. He took a spirit-gathering pill with the spiritual honey and started to cultivate. Wang Daoxing had the temperament of a young man. The Jin family matter had already made him hold back a bellyful of anger. Now that he couldn't go out, the unhappiness in his heart could be imagined. He was not in the mood to cultivate and had nothing to do. When he had nothing to do, he went to find Wang Shui to have a drinking contest. Unfortunately, his alcohol tolerance was really low. After drinking a jar of wine, he was drunk until he lost consciousness. Wang Shui looked at Wang Daoxing with disdain. "You dare to have a drinking contest with me with this level of alcohol tolerance?" In the blink of an eye, it was already the day to set out to sweep the demonic beasts. Wang Jian gathered everyone and warned them to stick together and not act on their own. Then, Wang Jiming took out pills and distributed them to everyone. Everyone received 10 antidote pills, rejuvenation pills and spirit recovery pills each. Wang Daoyuan and Wang Shui did not ask for spirit recovery pills. These things could not be compared to spirit wine. This was especially true for scarlet blood brew. Its main ingredient was scarlet blood ginseng, which could replenish blood qi. Not only could scarlet blood brew quickly recover spirit energy, it could also replenish blood qi, eliminate fatigue and treat external injuries. Furthermore, Scarlet Blood Brew did not have pill toxins like spirit recovery pills. Wang Daoyuan also took out spirit talismans. Everyone received 5 offensive, defensive, divine and earth escape spirit talismans each. Looking at the spirit talismans in his hand, Wang Jian asked, "Daoyuan, where did you get so many spirit talismans?" Wang Daoyuan chuckled. "After being locked up for 4 years, I had nothing to do other than cultivate, so I refined a few more spirit talismans. Don't worry about me, I still have a few hundred superior grade 1 spirit talismans. If anyone needs spirit talismans, feel free to ask me for them." Wang Jian nodded in satisfaction. "Looks like Daoyuan's talisman crafting talent is extraordinary. You still have time to refine so many spirit talismans after completing the talisman crafting mission every month. You need cultivation resources even more. The clan can't let you work for free. When we return, I'll give you 1,000 clan contribution points." The price of a superior grade 1 spirit talisman ranged from 2 or 3 spirit stones to 10 spirit stones. The average price was around 5 spirit stones. Defensive spirit talismans and escape spirit talismans were a bit more expensive, while offensive spirit talismans were a bit cheaper. After all, protecting one's life was more important. 1 clan contribution point of the Wang clan was equivalent to 1 spirit stone. 200 spirit talismans were worth 1,000 contribution points. It was not a loss. The Netherworld sect ordered all participating cultivators to gather at the crossroads in the center of the city. After gathering, they saw 3 Zifu realm cultivators standing side by side at the center of the crossroads. Coincidentally, Wang Daoyuan knew all of them. One of them was Elder Zhou of Clear Glass Market. On Elder Zhou's left was Lu Jinhui, and on his right was the black-robed old man who stopped Lu Jinhui from punishing Jin Yugue at the city gate. Elder Zhou took a step forward and cupped his hands towards the surrounding cultivators. "I am Zhou Qi, the chief commander of this cleanup operation. On behalf of the Netherworld sect, I would like to thank everyone for coming to help. I hope everyone can work together to wipe out the demonic beasts in one fell swoop. I guarantee that the Netherworld sect will reward anyone who has rendered meritorious service in this operation. However, I have to say the ugly words first. If you don't listen to orders, act without authorization, flee at the last minute, or let the enemy become a patient, behead." All the cultivators responded in unison, "Yes." After Zhou Qi finished speaking, Lu Jinhui stepped forward and said, "I am Lu Jinhui, the deputy commander of this operation. Elder Zhou has said what needs to be said, so I will directly assign tasks to everyone." After speaking, he took out a few jade slips and called over the leaders of several powerful clans. These were all descendants of the Netherworld sect's elders. Yang Ziyuan, Jin Yugue, and Liang Jiaxing were among them. After a while, Yang Ziyuan took a jade slip and walked back to the cultivators of his clan. He chose a dozen or so clans that he had a good relationship with to act together. The clans that Yang Ziyuan chose were all old clans. The Wang and Li clans were among them. After the leaders of the clans were selected, Lu Jinhui opened his mouth again. "The leaders who came up to receive the task just now are the captains of each squad. The clans that are selected by the squad captains will be under their command. The orders of the squad captains are the orders of the 3 of us. If there is any disobedience, behead without mercy. The captains will act separately according to their own tasks." Chapter 28. The Wang clan and a dozen other clans followed Yang Ziyuan to the bottom of a small hill. The Guiyan Valley was roughly north-south, but the mountain paths rarely went straight, and the Guiyan Valley was no exception. Although there were no twists and turns, there were still a few dangerous places, and the Carriage Gorge was one of the most dangerous places. The Carriage Gorge was about 3 miles long, and as the name suggested, the valley was only 1 carriage wide. The hill where everyone was lying in ambush was 3 miles east of the Carriage Gorge. The right side of the hill was a flat land about 200 feet wide, leading to the depths of the forest. On the right side of the flat land were large and small peaks, which were defended by other teams, the left side of the hill was a cliff. The carriage gorge was more than 3,000 miles away from the Golden Goose City and more than 300 miles away from the Guiyan market. If something happened here, both sides would not be able to rescue in time. Therefore, the carriage gorge was the place where the caravan was most frequently attacked. Although Yang Ziyuan hadn't told everyone about their respective missions, Wang Daoyuan could roughly guess that their mission was most likely to be to stop the fleeing demonic beasts. After that, Yang Ziyuan gave everyone 2 aura-concealing talismans. The aura-concealing talisman could conceal the aura emitted by the cultivator. Whether it was the fluctuation of mana or the smell, it would not leak out. The purpose of the underworld sex aura-concealing talisman was very clear. It was an ambush. There were many beasts scattered in the forest, and if they wanted to ambush, they would have to attract the beasts. At this time, Wang Daoyuan saw a caravan coming along the carriage gorge a few miles away in the south. This caravan had a lot of people, more than 20 carriages, and about 100 people. Because of the distance, he could not feel the aura of the cultivators, and could not judge their cultivation. In order to adapt to the terrain, the carriages on the Guiyan Valley Road were very strange. The length of the carriages varied from 2 to 5 feet, and the width was less than 5 feet, which was very slender. This caravan was no exception, about 3 feet long, and was pulled by 2 beasts that looked very similar to horses. This beast was called the forest horse. It did not run fast, but it was good at running in the forest and had great strength. It was a very common beast used for transportation. The caravan continued forward and soon reached the center of the carriage gorge, which was also the narrowest part of the carriage gorge. If they were attacked, the caravan would be in a dilemma. It was very likely that the demonic beasts would launch an attack here. Everyone became nervous. Even Yang Ziyuan transmitted his voice. Without my order, no one is allowed to act rashly. Those who disobey will be beheaded. As time passed, everyone's hearts rose to their throats. Wang Daoyuan could even hear the heartbeats of the people nearby. However, the expected attack did not happen. The caravan at the front had already exited the carriage gorge, and everything was still calm. Very quickly, the entire caravan drove out of the carriage gorge. They had passed through the easiest place to be attacked. Everyone in the caravan heaved a sigh of relief. It seemed that the demonic beasts did not intend to attack the caravan. Everyone who was lying in ambush outside the carriage gorge felt relieved. Wang Daoyuan also withdrew his profound yang sword. After exiting the carriage gorge, the mountain path was even wider and could accommodate many carriages side by side. In order to make it easier to manage, the leader ordered the caravan to be split into 3 groups instead of 1. The leader's prestige was quite high. With an order, everyone in the caravan immediately disrupted their original groups and rearranged themselves. Everything seemed to be coordinated and natural. Suddenly, a black gust of wind came from the front and headed straight for the caravan. In the caravan, 11 cultivators soared into the sky on their artifacts. The leader was dressed in a gray robe and did not look like a cultivator at all. Instead, he looked like a butler of a rich family. However, the gray-robed cultivator was not weak. As soon as the gust of wind rose, he took out a flying sword and flew into the air. He took out a horsetail whisk and waved it gently. A black beam collided with the gust of wind and a few explosions sounded. The gust of wind paused for a moment before continuing to rush over. However, the wind was slightly weaker. The other cultivators who flew into the air on their artifacts followed suit and took out their Dharma artifacts and spirit talismans to attack the gust of wind. The wind gradually weakened, but it was getting closer and closer to the caravan. The foundation establishment cultivators in the caravan were unable to disperse the gust of wind before it reached them. The black gust of wind rushed into the caravan. Many Qi refinement cultivators could not fly on their artifacts and could not hide in the air. Those who reacted quickly hid behind the carriages. Those who reacted slowly could only take out their Dharma artifacts and spirit talismans to resist. The gust of wind hit the cultivators, forest-piercing foals and carriages, flashing with colorful lights. There were all sorts of Dharma spells hidden in the black gust of wind. After hundreds of colorful lights flashed, the gust of wind dissipated. In the caravan, more than 50 forest-piercing foals were dead. After all, they could not take out their Dharma artifacts and spirit talismans to defend themselves. More than 10 cultivators' Dharma artifacts and spirit talismans were shattered and they died on the spot. More than 20 cultivators were in tatters and their faces were pale. It was clear that they were severely injured and had no strength to fight anymore. The remaining 60 or so people reacted quickly. The moment they saw the gust of wind, they hid behind the carriages and took out their Dharma artifacts and spirit talismans. Most of the attacks were blocked by the carriages. A small portion of the attacks were also blocked by the protective Dharma artifacts and spirit talismans. They only lost some spirit energy and were not injured. Their combat strength was not affected much. Looking at the situation of the 20 or so carriages, they should be specially made. One had to admit that the quality was really good. After being hit by the Dharma spells, only a few shallow marks were left. In the valley ahead, where the gust of wind blew, a group of demon beasts appeared. There was a giant multicolored tiger, a black bear the size of a small mountain, and a black wolf the size of a cow. There was also a black eagle with a wingspan of more than 10 meters and some golden feathers on its body. The 4 demon beasts were at the front of the group of demon beasts, as if 4 generals were leading an army. Behind the tiger, black bear and black wolf were more than 2,000 different types of beasts. Behind the condor were more than 1,000 different types of bird-type demon beasts. When the gray-robed cultivator of the caravan saw the situation, he ordered decisively, "Those who can still stand, listen up. Arrange the carriages into a circular formation and prepare to defend against the enemy." Upon hearing the order, the Qi refinement cultivators who were still alive moved immediately. With the forest-piercing foals dead, they could only rely on people to pull the carriages. For the sake of their lives, they were still very proactive. Some cultivators even took out their god power talismans. In less than 10 breaths, more than 20 carriages surrounded the city in a circle with all the Qi refinement cultivators in it. Then, they took out spirit crossbows and loaded them with spirit stones. The refinement stage cultivators who had escaped from death like headless flies instantly turned into fully armed elites. In Wang Daoyuan's opinion, these Qi refinement cultivators had the circle formation of carriages as cover. It was really similar to the positional warfare of his previous life. The caravan cultivators were too fast and there were more than 10 foundation establishment cultivators guarding in the air. The demon beasts did not have time to attack and missed the best opportunity to attack. But now, the caravan was already in position and could not be taken down easily. However, with thousands of demon beasts gathered, it was impossible for them to retreat just because of a little trouble. A few grade 2 demon beasts roared a few times and 500 to 600 bears, rhinoceroses and other thick-skinned demon beasts walked out from the herd. With a roar from the tiger, the 500 to 600 demon beasts charged towards the caravan. Chapter 29. The distance between the beast horde and the caravan was only about 2 kilometers. Even though the demonic beasts leading the charge had thick skin and were not known for their speed, they still had cultivation. Spurring on his spiritual power, he would be able to reach the range of the spirit crossbow within 20 breaths of time. The cultivators of the caravan all held their spirit crossbows and aimed at the incoming beast horde, ready to fire. After more than 10 breaths, the beast horde was only 100 feet away from the carriage formation. The gray-robed cultivator shouted, "Fire!" More than 80 cultivators activated their spirit crossbows at the same time. The spirit stones placed on the spirit crossbows flashed and a spirit chi arrow shot out. More than 80 spirit chi arrows were not enough to shoot hundreds of demonic beasts. Moreover, these demonic beasts had thick skin and thick flesh. The first wave of arrows only took down 5 or 6 demonic beasts and they were only injured. No demonic beasts died. However, these spirit crossbows could be fired consecutively. After the first wave of arrows, the second wave of arrows fell in half a breath's time. This time, the demonic beasts were not in a hurry to dodge and more were injured. However, no demonic beasts died. The third wave, the fourth wave. As the distance between the two sides got closer and closer, the power of the arrow rain also increased. The fifth wave of arrows fell and more than 20 demonic beasts fell. Moreover, a black bear happened to be shot in the eye. The spirit arrow went through the eye socket and pierced into the back of its head. The black bear died on the spot. In the sixth wave of arrows, more than 30 demonic beasts fell and 5 died. At this moment, some demonic beasts who had comprehended innate spells also began to use spells to counterattack. However, when their spells hit the carriage formation, they could only hear a sound and had no effect at all. Using spells would slow down the charging speed, which was really not worth it. The demonic beasts stopped attacking with spells and charged forward. After another 3 waves of arrows, more than 100 demonic beasts fell on the battlefield, more than 30 of them died. The more than 300 demonic beasts who could still charge were all injured. This group of demonic beasts who were leading the charge no longer had the heart to fight and fled. The 10th wave of arrows fell. Because the demonic beasts were running in a disorderly manner, only 50 or so were taken down. After the 10th wave of arrows, the spirit stones on the spirit crossbows were exhausted and needed to be replaced with new spirit stones. It would take 3 breaths of time to replace the spirit stones and reactivate the spirit crossbow. The demon beasts made full use of this short period of time. With a speed faster than when they were charging, they ran out of the killing range of the spirit crossbow, and even saved some of their injured and fallen companions. After the cultivators of the trade caravan exchanged the spirit stones, they continued to shoot arrows at the severely injured monster beasts on the ground. After 3 waves of arrows, the severely injured demonic beasts on the ground were all dealt with. Of the 500 to 600 demonic beasts, less than half were able to retreat. The 4 rank 2 demonic beasts were furious. They sent out more than 300 leopards, wolves, and other demonic beasts that were known for their speed. This time, they had learned their lesson from their previous failure. They didn't rush up like a swarm of bees. Instead, they spread out and attacked from multiple directions. As a result, the spirit crossbows of the caravan cultivators could no longer fire in unison. They could only scatter and deal with different enemies. Although this group of demon beasts were nimble and the spirit crossbows couldn't be fired in unison, only a few demon beasts were hit. However, they didn't have scales or tough fur. Once they were hit, they would either be injured or fall to the ground or die. As soon as the demonic beasts entered the range of the spirit crossbows, casualties began to appear. However, only a few demonic beasts lost their ability to fight. Not being able to fire in unison seriously weakened the lethality of the spirit crossbows. After 10 breaths, the demonic beasts rushed to the front of the carriage formation. The loss was less than 100. With the nimble speed of the demonic beasts, they easily jumped over the outer carriages and charged into the group of cultivators. All the demonic beasts roared excitedly. There were more than 200 demonic beasts that rushed into the carriage formation, while the caravan cultivators only had about 80 people. The space in the carriage formation was narrow and there was no room to dodge or move. They could only rely on hand-to-hand combat. The bodies of demonic beasts were far stronger than that of human cultivators of the same level. In addition, they had an absolute advantage in numbers. Under normal circumstances, the human cultivators would be wiped out in less than 15 minutes. The cultivators of the clan who were lying in ambush near the small hill were a little restless. Wang Daoist was even prepared to shout and rush out to help. However, the older the ginger, the spicier it was. Wang Shui was already prepared and pressed him down. There was a huge gap between their cultivation and combat ability. Wang Daoist couldn't even move. Wang Daoyuan also immediately covered his mouth to prevent him from shouting. Seeing that everyone was moving, Yang Xion transmitted his voice again. Those who act rashly will die. At this time, in the carriage formation in the valley, the sound of spells colliding rose and fell one after another. Colorful flashes were incessant. The dust and smoke covered the sky and the sun. The people outside the carriage formation couldn't see the situation inside. The foundation establishment cultivators in the air were also constantly attacking the demonic beasts. Unfortunately, the results were minimal. 15 minutes passed and the battle was still going on. However, there were demonic beasts constantly fleeing outside the formation. Another 15 minutes passed and the battle was basically over. The dust and smoke dispersed and everyone could finally see the battle situation clearly. In the small carriage formation, the ground was covered with demonic beast corpses. At a rough glance, there were more than 100 corpses. The caravan didn't have it easy either. Of the 80 cultivators, 30 were dead and 20 were injured. Among them, 10 were seriously injured and no longer had the strength to fight. Whether it was the demonic beasts or the people lying in ambush, they didn't expect this result. Wang Daoyuan understood a little. The ground near the carriage formation was covered with shredded paper. In his professional eyes, these should be broken talisman papers. Some of the cultivators still had golden armor talismans on their bodies and golden armor shadows on their bodies. A conservative estimate was that more than 5,000 talismans had been used in the battle just now. On average, each cultivator used more than 60 talismans. More than 60 talismans were nothing to Wang Daoyuan. However, he was a talisman master and it was normal for him to have many talismans. Cultivators who didn't know how to make talismans usually didn't have more than 20 talismans. First, everyone had a spirit crossbow, then thousands of talismans, and specially reinforced, indestructible carriages. This caravan's configuration was too luxurious. Wang Daoyuan was a little puzzled. The battle in front of him was full of strangeness. The caravan in the valley was obviously bait to attract the demonic beasts. The purpose of the bait was to fish. Once the fish took the bait would be worthless. Why would the Netherworld sect spend so much money to equip this bait? The Netherworld sect was an evil sect, not a charity. It was impossible for them to spend so much money to protect bait that had no value. In addition, the behavior of this group of demonic beasts was also extremely strange. First, the demonic beasts used the Black Gale to hide their spells and increase the range of their spells. Then, they sent out thick-skinned demonic beasts to launch a probing attack. After the probing failed, they accurately judged the weakness of the spirit crossbows and changed their tactics, successfully turning the battle into a chaotic battle. This series of operations completely exceeded the intelligence level of the demonic beasts and even reached the level of an excellent human commander. Demonic beasts of rank 2 and above all had innate spells that could strengthen their bodies or launch long-range attacks. However, this Black Gale was powerful and had a long range. Moreover, it could increase the range of spells. It was definitely not something that ordinary demonic beasts could have. Chapter 30. Wang Daoyuan had read many books about demon beasts, but he had never heard of any demon beast that had such a strange dermic art. The demon beasts present were all common demon beasts and there were no mutants. However, this trade caravan seemed to be stalling for time. Although the trade caravan had fewer people compared to the demon beasts in terms of numbers, they had an absolute advantage in terms of foundation establishment cultivators. However, the foundation establishment cultivators of the trade caravan did not make use of their advantage to take the initiative to attack and reduce the pressure on the chi refinement cultivators on their side. The first time the demon beasts attacked, the foundation establishment cultivators did not make a move at all. In the second test, they only helped the demonic beasts after they rushed into the carriage formation. When the demonic beasts scattered in all directions, they did not stop them. Wang Daoyuan could see more than 1,000 cultivators lying in ambush in the east of Guiyan Valley. Usually, the demon beasts hid in the dense forest to the west of Guiyan Valley and there should be more cultivators lying in ambush there. These people could charge down and deal with the demon beasts in the valley without any pressure at all. The reason why they did not make a move was most likely because the fish were too small. With too little information, Wang Daoyuan was unable to deduce too much information. He decided not to think about it and observed the situation carefully, waiting for the moment the mystery was revealed. In the valley, the demon beasts were naturally indignant after their second failure and were preparing for their third attack. The black condor shrieked in the air and dived towards the carriage formation with more than 1,000 flying beasts following closely behind. Given the speed of the flying beasts, they could reach the carriage formation in 5 breaths at most. Compared to walking beasts, flying beasts were faster and more agile. Even the spirit crossbows could not hit many of them, and the spirit talismans could not threaten them at all. This time, the Foundation establishment cultivators of the trade caravan no longer feigned ignorance and made a move the moment the black condor charged. 11 Foundation establishment cultivators rushed forward. Then, 11 flying swords soared into the air and pierced through the flock of flying beasts, causing blood to splatter. Colorful feathers fluttered down from the air. The corpses of flying beasts of all sizes fell to the ground. In just a single breath, more than 100 flying beasts were turned into ghosts under the swords. The flying beasts were not fools and did not dare to charge at the Foundation establishment cultivators directly. They scattered, and the menacing attack was neutralized once more. The rank 2 demonic beasts naturally couldn't just sit by and watch. They all roared and led the rest of the demonic beasts to charge forward. Black Condor also reorganized his flying beasts to interfere with the caravan cultivators and cover the beast horde. Seeing the demonic beasts swarm out, the caravan immediately responded. The gray-robed cultivator took on the Black Condor alone, while 3 other Foundation establishment cultivators were sent to hold back the other 3 Class 2 demonic beasts. Of the remaining 7 Foundation establishment cultivators, 4 continued to slaughter the birds while the other 3 attacked the demonic beasts on land. The Qi refining stage cultivators were not idle either. They lifted the roof of the carriage, revealing the big killing weapon in the carriage, the giant spiritual crossbow, which was no different from the spiritual crossbow on the wall of Golden Goose City. Immediately after, the Qi refinement cultivator took out a middle-grade spirit stone and installed it on the giant crossbow. Wang Daoyuan was not proficient in the art of refining and could not discern the grade of these giant spirit crossbows. However, he was certain that these giant crossbows were at least second-tier magic tools. Coupled with the mid-grade spirit stones, the giant crossbow definitely had the ability to kill a Foundation establishment cultivator. There were more than 20 carriages, which meant that there were more than 20 giant crossbows. Originally, if the demonic beasts swarmed forward, the carriage formation would definitely be broken. Now that there were these giant crossbows, the outcome was still unknown. The Qi refining stage cultivators quickly activated the giant crossbows, and more than 20 arm-thick light beams shot out, heading straight for the demonic beasts. In an instant, the light beams crossed a distance of 1 mile and penetrated into the demonic beasts. The demonic beasts learned their lesson from the first attack and did not gather together, but scattered. However, more than 2,000 demonic beasts gathered in the narrow valley. No matter how scattered they were, it was impossible to appear sparse. More than 20 light beams struck, and hundreds of demonic beasts were in the path of the light beams. Seeing the light beams coming towards them, these hundreds of demonic beasts immediately dodged. Unfortunately, compared to the light beams, the demonic beasts were too slow. The demonic beasts at the front had just made a dodging action when they were pierced by the light beams. Only the agile demonic beasts at the back managed to escape the calamity. More than 20 light beams dug more than 20 channels in the demonic beasts. More than 200 demonic beasts died, and the loss was more than 1/10 of the demonic beasts. The only flaw was that none of the Class 2 demonic beasts died. However, they were also shocked by the light beams. The only thing that made the demonic beasts feel fortunate was that a mid-grade spirit stone could only be used once for the giant crossbows. After the light beams were released, the Qi refining stage cultivators immediately replaced them with new mid-grade spirit stones. Replacing the spirit stones took 3 breaths of time, and the demonic beasts took the opportunity to rush forward. With the demonic beasts' current speed, the giant crossbows could only shoot 2 more arrows at most. After 2 arrows, the demonic beasts could kill their way into the carriage formation. After 3 breaths, the second arrow was shot. The demonic beasts were too close, and apart from the Class 2 demonic beasts, they were completely unable to react in time and died directly under the light beams. More than 20 channels were plowed through the demonic beasts by the light beams, and nearly 400 demonic beasts died. In addition to the Foundation establishment stage cultivators' flying swords, there were less than 2,000 demonic beasts left. The demonic beasts were frightened, and some of them had already begun to flee. However, under the roar of the Class 2 demonic beasts, the fleeing demonic beasts returned to the demonic beasts and braced themselves to continue charging forward. Another 3 breaths passed, and the third wave of light beams arrived as scheduled. This time, the demonic beasts' casualties were even greater, and more than 600 demonic beasts fell. There were only a little more than 1,000 land demonic beasts left, and the demonic beasts that were lucky enough to survive almost collapsed. The 3 rounds of arrow rain had already beaten the demonic beasts' courage. Even though they were only 1 step away from the carriage formation, most of the demonic beasts still did not dare to jump in. The land demonic beasts were hesitant to advance, but the birds, on the other hand, advanced bravely. Whether it was the giant crossbows, hand crossbows, or spirit talismans, none of them could pose a fatal threat to the birds. The birds were most afraid of the flying swords of the Foundation establishment stage cultivators. However, after being slaughtered by the Foundation establishment stage cultivators, the birds became even more scattered. Because they were flying in the air and were not restricted by the narrow terrain, more than 1,000 birds flew everywhere. The flying swords of the Foundation establishment stage cultivators could only kill 1 or 2 birds each time they passed through the flock. Relying on their advantage in speed and agility, the birds easily killed the carriage formation. A goshawk at the peak of the Class 1 swooped down. Its figure changed several times in the air, successfully dodging a few light arrows shot by a small spirit crossbow and a few spirit talisman attacks, and pounced on an old man. Seeing the goshawk pounce on him, the old man threw away his spirit crossbow and was about to take out something to fight. Unfortunately, his speed was too slow, and the goshawk's claw caught him on the top of his head. The goshawk released its claw and forcefully kicked the old man's head, flapped its wings a few times, and flew back into the air. 4 bloody holes appeared on the old man's head, and blood flowed all over his face. The old man seemed to be very unwilling, and after struggling a few times, he finally fell down powerlessly. Similar scenes played out continuously in the carriage formation. Seeing the birds slaughtering the cultivators of the caravan effortlessly, the land demonic beasts also regained a trace of courage, and rushed into the carriage formation to participate in the chaotic battle. The situation was set, and the caravan was powerless to reverse the situation. Under the joint attack of more than 2,000 demonic beasts, only death awaited them. Soon, there were less than 10 cultivators left in the carriage formation. Even those who were alive were all heavily injured. 3 of them took out Earth Escape talismans and escaped underground. The other cultivators did not have Earth Escape talismans, and after a while, they all died in the hands of the demonic beasts. Chapter 31. The Netherworld sect truly did not care about the life and death of Qi refinement cultivators and did not distribute Earth Escape talismans at all. The 3 cultivators who escaped had also brought their own Earth Escape talismans. Seeing that the battle in the carriage formation had ended, the Foundation establishment cultivators did not dare to continue fighting. Earlier on, the demon beast's target had always been the carriage formation, and they could slaughter the demon beasts wantonly from the side. But now that the carriage formation had been broken, they were the demon beasts' only target. Most of the beasts could not do anything to them. Only a few beasts could release a few long-range innate spells to attack the flying Foundation establishment cultivators, but it was very difficult to hit them. The demon beasts were a great threat to the Foundation establishment cultivators. When Foundation establishment cultivators flew on their artifacts, their speed was faster than ordinary rank 1 demon beasts. However, in terms of agility in the air, no cultivator below the Golden Core realm could compare to an ordinary rank 1 demon beast. Surrounded by more than 1,000 late-stage rank 1 demon beasts, including a rank 2 black condor, and coupled with the long-range dermic attacks of the demon beasts on the ground, the 11 Foundation establishment cultivators could very well die here. The 11 Foundation establishment cultivators immediately flew towards the east of the valley, where Wang Daoyuan and the others were lying in ambush. However, the demon beasts were not willing to let them go. Under the command of the Black Condor, more than 1,000 demon beasts began to encircle and intercept the Foundation establishment cultivators. The gray-robed cultivator flew at the front on his sword, and the other Foundation establishment cultivators followed closely behind, attempting to break through the demon beast's encirclement in one fell swoop. The Black Condor did not fight him head-on and only flew in front of the gray-robed cultivator, releasing innate spells continuously. The other rank 1 demon beasts followed suit and did not fight the Foundation establishment cultivators head-on. Instead, they released spells in all directions or launched sneak attacks directly at them. In order to increase their speed, the Foundation establishment cultivators poured all the spirit energy in their bodies into their dermic weapons, not daring to waste a single bit elsewhere. If they retaliated, they would slow down their flying speed and allow more demon beasts to catch up. If they did not retaliate, they would be attacked continuously and beaten to death. Helpless, they could only continuously take out defensive spirit talismans and stick them on their bodies, temporarily blocking the attacks of the demon beasts. However, there were simply too many attacks, and the moment the spirit talismans were released, they were destroyed instantly. If this continued, none of the 11 would be able to escape. The gray-robed cultivator made a prompt decision and shouted, "Scatter and break out." The 11 Foundation establishment cultivators each chose a direction and ran for their lives. Splitting up to break through the encirclement was indeed effective. The demonic birds swore to get rid of everyone. 1,000 or so demonic birds were divided into 11 groups, each of them surrounding the 11 Foundation establishment cultivators. There were less than 100 demon birds in each flock, and the Black Eagle was the only rank 2 demon bird. Without rank 2 demonic birds, it would be very difficult to surround a Foundation establishment cultivator with less than 100 rank 1 demonic birds. The gray-robed cultivator was the strongest, and the Black Condor participated in the encirclement. Before they split up to break out of the encirclement, the gray-robed cultivator stood at the front and was able to protect himself. Now, there were less than 100 rank 1 demon birds and a Black Condor. Although they couldn't defeat them in a head-on battle, it was still very easy for them to retreat. He stepped on a flying sword, holding a horsetail whisk in one hand and a talisman in the other. His body was covered in a thick layer of golden light. When the spell of the first-order demon bird hit the light barrier, it only caused a slight ripple. Only the wind arrow spell from the Black Condor's wings hit the light barrier, causing it to dim a little. It would take at least 10 wind arrow techniques to break the light barrier. Even rank 2 demonic beasts did not have the ability to release 10 destiny spells in a short period of time. Without the omnidirectional attacks of the large group of demon birds, his speed was much faster. Of the demon birds that surrounded him, only the Black Condor could keep up with him. The others were left behind. When the Black Condor released a spell, he would receive it with his protective light barrier. When the Black Condor attacked him in close combat, he would chase it away with his horsetail whisk. When the followers behind caught up, he would throw a few talismans. It could be said that the small group of demon birds could do nothing to him. He was not in a hurry to escape either. Instead, he led the group of demon birds in circles. To Wang Daoist, this was to buy time for the others to escape. Once he escaped, the Black Condor would definitely surround the others. They did not have the strength of the gray-robed cultivator. Now that the gray-robed cultivator's efforts were effective, the other Foundation establishment cultivators were also relaxed. Without the interference of rank 2 demonic beasts, none of the less than 100 rank 1 demonic birds could catch up to the Foundation establishment cultivators who were flying at full speed. Only a few of the demonic beasts on the ground could release long-range spells. However, they did not dare to do so for fear of accidentally injuring the demon birds. Like the gray-robed cultivator, the other Foundation establishment cultivators were not in a hurry to leave the battlefield. Instead, they led the small group of demon birds in circles. Wang Daoist could not help but find it strange. Both sides had been fighting for so long, and the cultivators had been flying at full speed on their weapons. They should not have much spirit energy left. On the other hand, the demon bird's ability to fly was innate and did not consume spirit energy at all. It was a piece of cake for them to fly for a few days. If the Foundation establishment cultivators were to continue fighting like this, they would definitely die once their spirit energy was exhausted. The chase did not last long. Soon, the sounds of birds chirping and beasts roaring could be heard from the west of returning Goose Valley. A moment later, a group of demon birds flew over from afar. Among them, 4 of them were flying at the same speed as the black condor. They should be rank 2 demonic birds as well. The 4 rank 2 demonic birds pounced towards an early-stage Foundation establishment cultivator. This Foundation establishment cultivator had the lowest cultivation and was the weakest among the 11 of them. It was difficult for him to take on a rank 2 demonic bird alone. Furthermore, this Foundation establishment cultivator had expended too much spirit energy and could not even defend himself against the attacks of the 4 rank 2 demonic birds. After throwing out a few spirit talismans, he died to the sharp claws of the demonic birds. Another group of demon beasts sprinted out of the forest. 7 of them were clearly larger than their peers and should be rank 2 demonic beasts. There were more than 10,000 demon beasts and demon birds added together. When he saw that, the gray-robed cultivator laughed instead of getting angry. The mission is complete. Retreat. The remaining 10 Foundation establishment cultivators did not take a stroll and fled towards the east. There was no way the demon birds would give up just like that when they had the absolute advantage. The 3,000-odd demon birds that came later joined with the 1,000 demon beasts from before and chased after the Foundation establishment cultivators relentlessly. 3 early-stage Foundation establishment cultivators did not have enough spirit energy and were caught by the demon birds, dying an unnatural death. The other 7 managed to escape to where Wang Daoyuan and the others were lying in ambush. Yang Zun hollered, "Kill!" There were more than 20 Foundation establishment cultivators and more than 300 Qi refinement cultivators in his team. After lying in ambush for half a day and watching the caravan cultivators fight with the demon beasts without being able to make a move, they were already impatient. The other teams of cultivators lying in ambush on the east side of Guiyan Valley struck as well, sending spirit talismans and flying swords everywhere. The demon birds were caught off guard and 500 to 600 of them died instantly. The demon birds retreated immediately and the 7 Foundation establishment cultivators managed to escape their pursuit. They landed behind Wang Daoyuan and the others who were lying in ambush and consumed elixirs to meditate and recover their spirit energy. When he saw the demon birds retreat, Yang Ziyuan immediately assigned missions to the various families. The Yang family and the other 7 families were to guard the plains on the right side of the hill. The Wang and Li families were to guard the small hill and prevent the demon birds from escaping. If there was a chance, they were to reinforce the right side. 2 families and 30-odd cultivators were to guard the left cliff to prevent the demon birds from escaping. If the demon birds did not take the initiative to attack, the Qi refinement cultivators did not have any means to attack them. Therefore, it was mainly up to the Foundation establishment cultivators to stop the demon birds. The Qi refinement cultivators were only there to provide cover. A new week has begun. Please bookmark and recommend. I'll add a chapter tomorrow at midnight. In the future, I'll update a chapter at midnight and a chapter at 9:30 p.m. You're tuning in to the Wang Lin's Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.